unusual from them is that they are going to be playing
Choose your hero.
Hi!
Hey guys!
Sorry about that. We ran into a number of issues from some shocking Twitch outages to
Unprecedented.
yeah, really. I've never seen Twitch completely go down like that. It's kind of crazy. And someone actually from Twitch logged into our client, even made an account just to say, "Hey, we're working on it."
I think they're in a game now, actually.
Oh, cool.
Great.
Well,
Perfect.
driving conversion. I like it. So we were going to watch the upper bracket match, but we had a little bit of trouble with our live spectating. It's still a new feature, sort of a work in progress, but we're going to go ahead and jump into the lower bracket. We're watching Patch Beasts versus 3y3. So let's go ahead and switch over to that in the deck picker right now. And then after that, we'll go to the winners finals and the losers finals and play out the rest of the tournament.
Hopefully we'll have smooth sailing from here.
Yes.
Nothing else could possibly go wrong.
Cool. So we're in the deck picker right now. So for this tournament, we're running with a draft mode. The team on the left, the higher seeded team, picks one hero in their units and they lock them in. Then they switch to the other team, which will pick two heroes and their units, lock in, go back to the first team, they'll pick the remaining two, and then the last team will pick their final spot.
This, like a normal draft system, right, provides a little bit of room for a high power first selection, and two counter picks on the side, and then two picks of those, and then a final sort of.
Yeah, and make sure that both the teams get enough chances to respond to what their other team is doing. You don't get into some weird coin flip, blind pick games in a best of one.
Yeah.
Now for the finals, we're going to run best of three, and both teams will have a chance to be first pick, and then the third match will be a blind pick.
So that'll be very interesting.
Yeah, something interesting happens. So
I want to know if any of the teams have prep strategies for a blind
for that in particular, yeah. No, I think, having talked to all the teams, I think they all think they're going to win 2-0, just 2-0 in the final, so
it's a bold prediction.
I don't know if anyone's prepared for blind pick, actually. So let's look at this draft right now. So we can see for Patch Beasts on the left, Drago started with a pretty standard pick. We see Eris, who's pretty strong right now. Looks like they're running Apocalypses and Dervishes. A lot of AoE damage, a lot of mobility.
What do you think about the scarabs in this? The heavy melee as opposed to all the
Exofiends, yes.
Exofiends, sorry.
Yes, we used to call them scarabs. Typically they're used situationally for some split farming. They can be used to pick off engineers. They can be used for vision, a little bit expensive for vision, but and ambush things using their burrow. We'll see how Drago decides to use them.
Yep.
Let's move through the other picks real quickly. So it looks like 3y3, I'm just going to call them I think that's a little easier. I responded with a double tank right out of the gate. Got a bunch of Aquadillos.
Some Quadruped to help with that focus percent on big ability. A lot of damage.
Right. Do you see anything interesting or atypical here?
Not a lot, really. The biggest thing that comes out to me is the Grove Tenders that CB's running. Those give you a little bit of ranged poke with some spawnables that you can put down. It can be pretty effective when you get a large number of them up, but they're also pretty fragile.
For sure, yeah. They can be good at establishing some nice zone control, some nice poke. They can sort of put pressure on an opponent in a particular area, forcing them to kind of engage fully or back off.
Yeah. And when you've run the Bramblethorn, the Batterhorns in front of them, it can be awful hard to step into that region, right? You can get poked out for quite a while.
Yeah, and if Drago happens to go a more Sandstinger heavy composition, which we've been seeing more to deal with some of those beefier units, Sandstingers can do a lot of single target damage. They're very fragile, and the Grove Tenders, they throw down their Needle Ferns, long range, and they can chip away at those
Sandstingers. That poke hurts a lot more when you only got 50 health.
Yep. Now this is interesting, actually. So the Patch Beasts have actually picked up Bela, which is a little bit surprising. Double D has been running this in some of the other games in the tournament, but we haven't seen that many people actually try to play white and make white work. What do you think that he's trying to accomplish?
So he's going both Deadeyes and Conduits, and I hope that means that he's trying to respond to this very tank position from the other side, getting those Conduits up so that when one of those big Batterhorn Bramblethorn Goliaths goes into their healing mode.
Yeah.
You know it's not going to move. You can lay down all the DPS on it very quickly
Welcome to our
and
tour.
DPS it down.
2, 1.
Great.
It is time
So,
to build our army.
hopping into the game now.
Yeah, they wasted no time after that draft.
Not at all. So let's see how the teams decide to open. Looks like Dragon Double D, there's an aggressive opening right now going on. Everyone's sort of clashing in the middle. No one's going to the side lanes to farm right away. Looks like Red is trying to come over here and invade a little bit using Hydros. It's a pretty tanky early game. Slammer responding in kind, so we've got a bit of a kind of a disorganized brawl right now.
Bit of a noodle fest between them, but it looks like that's
A
when
nice round.
Oh, and barely gets away, but he may not get far.
Heals himself. He might be able to get back to his tower.
Oh, and he gets away, but they've given up a lot of pressure to this mid region. CB's trying to bring those creeps back down under his tower so that you can DPS them a little more safely. Engaging them out in the middle leaves you open to this kind of harassment.
Right.
There.
This has been more of a slugfest than I've seen usually opening up. It's like Slimer does pick off the critters on this side, the creeps on this side.
Yeah, so it's a nice, it's a small advantage. It is a nice one.
Yep.
In particular, that early game energy. If this is going to be a brawly game, getting that energy from camp means that you don't have to spend your base production on it. Lets you get some faster attack or some more supply cap, because you're not just having to build just to have units.
Exactly. Looks like everyone's sort of backing up the farm. What's nice was Grum, actually, during that whole thing, was farming critters here. You can see that they've got a decent resource lead from that, just split pushing while all that pressure was happening in middle. Looks like all of the mid camps have been cleared. We're going to start to see people probably go over here to the side, farm a little bit, since a number of grubs have spawned now. There's a fair amount of resources on the sides.
Yeah, I mean, this makes this a very hot point now. Now that this area has sort of filled up with resources, it's a lot easier to spend time here. It's good, generally to split off a couple of units and farm this continuously.
Yeah.
But sometimes you need all your units together. But that lets these side regions build up quite a lot of resources.
A nice dive from Slimer to pick up a couple troopers, but he actually is a little in trouble now. Overextended a little bit. He's trying to heal and trade as much as he can here, but it's going to be tough for him to get out. Hydros is pretty tanky, though.
Yeah, Slammer might get out, but all of his units have gotten picked off.
Right.
With the exception of that auto guard on the upper left, but I think that's not all over the world either.
Yeah.
And I like the angle that Aswan and Dr. Grum took. Aswan nicely got in there ahead of all of those wisps. The Scuttle Guards actually can wisp quickly. They actually get necessary on them, but that little body block means that those wisps DPS unopposed.
And meanwhile, the rest of his team was actually using that as a distraction to kind of free push here. He got a quick tower. It's going to give him a nice chunk of change. If we look at the income right now, the most interesting thing is that it's sort of a trade, sort of a wash in terms of what they've actually collected in bioshards on the map. But the red team is really powering shards right now with their generators. You'll see they're going for a really tech-heavy build. They've got 2 purifiers out right now, which is...
and that's how a lot of people have been playing this dangerous competition game. Scuttle Guards invest heavily upgrades for it. You really just want to tech up fast, get to that little wombo combo kind of.
Yeah.
Got some ice blocks
and here's where the shards are going. These nice, quick Bramble Thorns. They've got 2 purifiers behind it, too. Getting a nice trap onto Slammer's Scuttle Guards again. They did clear the Titan pretty quickly. It's pushing. It's pretty healthy. A nice shadow comes down. Sort of ambushes some of Double D's units, but he's able to get back out.
Oh, but the left edge of that shadow is just enough to keep the hero there and let those Bramble Thorns get in melee range. Once they do, they knock that hero down fast.
Right. Wow, huge purifier around there. Creating really good value. Quadrupus sneaking in here. We're going to see how they use that. That can do a lot of work early game, mitigate a lot of damage with its intervention, keep the Titan alive for longer, help protect the Bramble Thorns. Titan took out 3 towers cleanly, still going. Looks like they're going to back off for now.
You know what, I think that's pretty safe. Like, they got a very nice advantage on that. They walked in, they killed 3 towers. They really didn't lose many units while they did it. Those Bramble Thorns killed the Titan really fast, and just using to take what you got and then take the rest of the map while the going's good. I think a very solid choice.
Yep. Some nice split farming from both teams while that was all happening, getting a little bit of extra resources. That was a really fast Titan clear. The Purifiers put out a lot of damage.
The Bramble Thorn Goliath is I don't think that would be underrated. So
wow.
People use this composition for that reason.
Yeah.
And Slammer trying to pick off those tanks.
That was a really good intervention heal onto this Purifier. It looks like it had gotten caught by the Scuttle Guards, but they were able to keep it alive. And they're going to use this huge army they have. They have a giant army lead, it seems like, right now. A lot of shards in their army, very high tech. These Purifiers are being really effective for them.
You know, and I think another point here is that that team has stuck together really well. They've stayed as 3. They've used their sort of position with Purifiers behind and these very tanky alive in front with the quadruples to make all of that more survivable.
Yeah.
But the blue team, I would really like to see them try to punish on the other side of the map. You know, 3 people are up here. The entire right side of the map is unoccupied. I think they could have maybe gotten something done down there with power pushed in.
Now, what's interesting here is that the meeting camp is just about to spawn. We're going to see how the players are going to play around. There was a lot of time between the Titan fight and the meeting camp. You don't typically see that much time. Looks like Red Team's just going to back off, and Patch Beast is going to just take this fairly safe medium camp uncontested. The Red Team, going to take their own.
Yeah, this looks like a pretty straightforward trade.
Right.
And, you know, that is both good and bad. It looks like Red had a definite advantage. Probably could have pushed that damage a little harder. On the other hand, it looks like Drago's composition has kind of come up to speed now. I don't think he had it completely right before, but once you get this sort of critical mass of Devilkins out, it becomes much more potent to run around very, very quickly. That's just continuously to keep them at speed. And they pack a surprising punch. Single targets. If in hit something real hard.
Yeah. He's going for a lot of single target damage. He is transitioning into tier 3, looking to get those apocalypses likely. Red has been doing a great job of swinging around, clearing all of these towers. They've killed almost all the outer towers except these 2. Now I think they're going to back off, clear their medium camps, which it looks like Slammer is done over here, and Drago going to take this one with Double D. Some nice farming from Slammer up here, splitting off a few Sand Singers. Sort of this peaceful truce, everyone just coming together to kill all the caterpillars, keep the infestation under control.
You know that Purifier count is growing now.
Yeah.
And I don't know what tool the red team is going to use to try to kill the blue team. Excuse me, try to kill the off. I guess Drago can try to hit them with Arclights, gets those up. But I would really like to see an AP upgrade as well to help kill those Purifiers. One blast may not do it. They really need to take those out. Those are going to lock down so much space.
Right, in Apocalypse, the Destructor Prophecy will do 200 damage unupgraded, and these Purifiers have 230. Particularly with Intervention in play, if they use Intervention on it, it's going to reduce the damage by 40%. Can really increase the survivability of those Purifiers. It's like we do have the new Titans spawning. Second round Titans are up. We see that Apocalypse and some Ember Fiends are coming out from Drago. That's Ember Fiends cast a really slow-moving heat wave. It's very good at controlling space. It can force the Purifiers to en route to reposition. Looks like the blue team did get off to a pretty good start. Patch Beast getting a lot of damage out on their Titan very quickly. Not clear if Red's going to be able to respawn, but
a near kill on that Bramble.
A nice save.
Managed to get all of the dead eyes left. Just barely stayed alive, but while killing it, both really not be damage. The blue team gets a very decisive.
This is going to be pretty dangerous. They're unsieging all the nice intervention, keeping all those tanks nice and healthy, all those Purifiers healthy. They're backing off, trying to get into a better defensive position. They showed up at the Titan a little late, and Patch Beasts were able to take it down pretty quickly, but we'll see if they can get much work off this Titan, because this is a scary thing to attack into.
It is. Now they do have 2 armadillos. Looks like they're diving
nice
in.
Snipes. Nice snipes from Double D. Picked off 1 Purifier. A good front line here protecting the other ones. Another one goes down with the Aquadillo jumping in.
You know, and that chunk of those is gone. I mean, I could see like another Apocalypse hit up on the upper right. Those 2 tanks are below half health. They're gonna die.
Yeah. So overall,
snipes.
Nice to go down.
Just a little too late there.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing how much just getting the Titan was able to give them that pressure, right? If Red had been in position a little bit earlier, if I was in position a little earlier, then they could have easily out DPS that Titan, and they would have been on the offensive there. But since they had to kind of pull back a bit, it ended up hurting their Purifier count, even though there were some nice interventions and some nice body blocking with the Bramblethorns.
Yeah, I mean, and that's an interesting part of this middle fight. Sometimes, you know, you have both teams who just come to the middle and clash, and at the beginning of the game, that's what it looked like it was going to be. Sometimes, you know, they choose to DPS for Titan more. But when you do that, you really need to know when it's going to come. Time is so critical. Getting there on time, start that DPS rate running. Because if you fall behind a little bit and your other team has Quadrubi, has Ice Bombs, it's going to go down really fast.
Yeah. And for those of you that actually have a similar problem, knowing Titan timing, the next patch series will have timers in the in-game HUD. So it'll be a little easier to keep track of that. The game does get very hectic, and timing out the next 4 minutes and 30 seconds after the last Titan fight can be difficult. So right now, what's in the team's heads? What are they posturing for?
So I think they should be. I think Doctor's reeling a little bit from the loss of those purifiers. That represented a substantial amount of bioshards that he had invested. He's going to have this brief period. He doesn't have things like the Dead Eyes, or on the other side has,
right?
Which are sort of more standoffish, more. And I think he's going to need a little bit of time to try to get some more bioshards up. And I think they should be trying to look at the hard camp coming up here about 40 seconds.
Yep.
Trying to sit through that top area. Maybe get some good,
Ooh, a nice shadow here.
Oh, this could be brutal. This could be great.
Oh my god. A really nice Bramblethorn shadow ambush.
That was a wonderful
Wipes most of Double's Raptor Force. That's going to be huge. Coming up, the hard camp's about to show up. The red team has a substantial army advantage right now. They're up a full 30 energy and a fair number of shards as well. So let's see how they actually manage to use this advantage. They want to maximize the amount of income they get from this power play.
Yeah, and they got that good advantage that I wanted.
Yeah.
They got the kills that they needed, but the hard camps are up now, and they're nowhere near them.
Yeah, Slammer was able to sort of force him to pull back, but he did sacrifice his hero to do so. He did manage to pick up a Trebuchet here. There's a little bit out of position. All in all, they still have a huge army lead, but these hard camps in the corner are begging them to be taken right now. Although, I mean, if they keep picking up Aquadillas like this...
I don't know what the Aquadillas doing out here. Maybe a little bit of greed here, wanting to get those bioshards. Ooh, if he gets out, though, I may have to eat my words.
Well, it's going to be really close. No, last shot from the Purifier.
Not quite, Slammer.
It looks like they're actually just setting up for the third Titan. They're not going to be fooled like last time.
No.
There are a lot of hard camps up on the map right now. With a ton of resources that could be huge, but you definitely don't want to be caught out of position for a Titan fight.
You don't want to be midway through the hard camp and have to choose between finishing it off and getting position. You don't want to be over there when the Titan spawn and then have to awkwardly run back midway through another objective.
Right. It looks like Red is actually going to try and take both right now. This is going to be really interesting. We'll see if they manage to do it. Totally uncontested on the bottom, and the Titans have just spawned. Everything is up on the map right now. We're going to see what they decide to do. Double D trying to pick off some Purifiers. A nice, good intervention. But these Purifiers are unsieged right now. Slammer is engaging. Another good intervention comes in. Ultimates from both sides. This is keeping everything alive right now, and it's going to expire in a second. These Purifiers need to get some key hits onto Double D's army. Going down Slammer's last Aquadillo about to die. Yeah.
And you know what? I think the blue team can just back off here. They've got but with a nice
heat wave
like
and a good Destructive Prophecy. That actually went fairly well for blue, although neither team going to be able to finish off this hard camp. Oswald getting out with a lot of shards left in these tanky blue units.
Yeah, they do have to heal up though. I mean, units with that much health, they do take a while to get back. I think, you know, that does cost you some time if you're not on the map.
Yep.
But again, it looks like blue is a deal.
And meanwhile, Siki was doing a great job of getting a lot of damage out onto this Titan just by himself, because Drago can't really do much about those really tanky green units, the Battlehorns and Bramblethorns.
What the red team has done a great job of keeping those units, whether it's the Battlehorns, or the Bramblethorn Goliath rooting at the time to get that protothesis heal. or his blue teammate with those very timely interventions.
Yeah.
Keeping those high value units alive means that you can end up with you just have so much stuff that deals so much damage that one of your opponents can pass you over.
Yeah. This is an interesting attack path right now for the red team. You typically don't see late game pushes like this often because this is a very tight choke. I was using my hand to show on the map to Harrison like I'm an idiot. They are able to get up here. These units are really low. A nice Ice Frog trade right now. See what Red can get off of this.
So you mentioned that tight choke. Part of what that tight choke means, though, is that if you're attacking into it, trebuchet, you can let that trebuchet walk in.
Oh my gosh. All of Drago's stuff is trapped right now, but these units are getting really low. Let's see if Red can actually finish them off with the Purifiers and the tanks. Most of the stuff for Slammer and Drago going down. That's a really good move.
You know, we managed to weave some of it out there, but that's part of the issue with playing against Matterhorn. You really need to watch where they're going and what sort of angle they're eyeballing to push you back into.
Yeah, that was a very efficient trade for Red, and they're getting 3 nice structures off it, a Warp Spire, Healing Generate, and an Outer Tower. And let's see what the army looks like right now. Actually, coming out pretty even. Red has a lot of map control at the moment. They still have this Titan up, providing a little bit of pressure, but it's going to go down. We're going to see how the teams reset. There are a lot of camps up on the map, still a lot of resources for the teams to gain. Flying creeps from both of the hard camps still. A fair number of resources there. They have their safe hard camps as well to clear. So everyone's just going to sort of regroup and try to get in good position before the next Titan fight.
Yeah, and so we're taking the hard camps here on the red side, and that's sort of one of the remaining safe objectives left that they can get these bio shards off. They've also got their medium camps that can help get a little bit more value done.
Yeah.
Sorry guys, we're just changing our microphone setup a little bit.
Apologize if you couldn't hear me. Let's sort this out. Is that what was happening?
We can always hear you. It's the opposite problem.
Oh, it's you again? You again. Alright, I'll sit over here. No, I'm not in camera anymore. Alright, well, we'll sort out whatever issues are happening in between games. Sorry about that, guys.
It's been an interesting day for streaming.
Move this a little closer, maybe.
So we're moving back towards the more contestable objectives here. There's no Titan on the map right now. I don't think their team might base yet. I would have liked to see some other push tools from Red here. I think they have enough of this to handle things pretty well. And I think they could have spent a little bit of that army sort of supply value in an engineer or a juggernaut. Use some of the shards that they get on the map upgrade to something that's really pretty threatening.
Right.
And pushing like they did on the top side with the Titan while you have an ion cannon going on the bottom side is a really potent combination that pulls people in multiple directions and really makes them.
Absolutely. Now a lot of these resources still up. I'd like to see some of the teams sort of take this. Drago is in a bit of a tough spot right now. This is a little dangerous, but it looks like Team I choosing not to punish. Doesn't see it. Gonna take some poke damage from Double D's Deadeyes. Got a nice Trebuchet zoning a little bit, and teams are setting up again. Looks like Drago is going to sling around with his Apocalypse and his Dervishes. Pretty low Dervish count right now, so he's not that mobile. He needs to get out a few more Dervishes if he wants to be able to stay out of harm's way.
Yeah, I mean, when you only have 1 or 2, you sort of have to pick and choose what you want to use. You can use it to sprint in and try to get off an Apocalypse Black, try to get off a key.
Right.
Or you can use it to get out, but not both.
Knife Zephyr usage here, slowing down the army, keeping the Purifiers safe. Some heat waves.
I really like these heat waves. Right?
Yeah.
When you've got so many bulky units, so many big units, and you're trying to hold this space, particularly with those Purifiers that are gonna go down.
One going down, the other one getting saved nicely.
Those big, slow-moving balls really can be hard to play around, really hard to get out of it.
Yeah.
But by the same token, we've got this Trebuchet in the back line head that the blue team really needs to avoid.
And right as we said, not many Dervishes getting some things caught out, a lot caught out here. Drago's army mostly going down, but taking out a lot of these Purifiers in exchange. It looks like we've just got...
You know, but that's the last of the Ember Fiends and the last of the Apocalypse. And, you know, outside the blue backline here, the blue team isn't very scary anymore. I mean, once the ice rock breaths are down, there's not that much left to follow up on the trees.
Right, and this incredibly tanky red team is closing the gap. A nice body block by Double D to keep his stuff alive.
Good save.
And he is really poking these down with these Deadeyes and these Raptors. He might actually be able to clear this all out if he controls really nicely. This Windray barely gets caught by the Icy Breath. He's just doing a lot of work up here, taking down all these tanky
units. I think
units.
this is an overextension. I think that you could have stayed in the middle, take the gains that you have, and been pretty good. But they keep pushing a little too hard, and the range on Raptors is really great. If you're landing those marks, you can really punish people from afar if they keep.
Right. This has been a really intense game. Really interesting to see these Purifiers come out and have such an impact with the Windray, and to see the Patch Beast using a relatively squishier composition to pretty decent effect. Able to take down those high health pool green and blue units just with really crisp, clean, careful play from Double D.
Yeah, and that is a key piece, is that the blue team, you know, with the red team, the blue units on the red team, with things like those Aquadillos, can really dive into you really fast. You have to be super safe.
You do have to be careful, and as you're saying, Double D tries to sneak up around here to get an angle on the Purifiers, but gets caught by a nice Icy Breath. Loses all of his Deadeyes. He's down to just Raptors right now. This Trebuchet really pushing him out of position. Drago's got his Apocalypse count back up a little bit.
So what do the upgrades look like in this part? We've got the red Titan pushing in. So Double D has a substantial amount of AP. He doesn't have that much in the physical damage department. So losing all those Deadeyes is actually a really big deal.
Right.
A substantial amount of your DPS is locked up in that ability power usage. These Raptors are good and they can poke things down, but they're not that scary enough.
Yep, and he is refilling now, but that's a lot of damage he's not getting out onto this Titan right now. This Titan is going to probably be able to kill this Archive Tower as well. If Double D had all those Deadeyes still, he'd be able to get a lot of nice, easy resets on it. DPS it down before it can actually kill this. Red, however, looking a little fragile, still building up themselves, because Double D was able to pick off a lot of those low health, tanky units.
Yeah, I think they're definitely in a rebuilding era. Now, the Titan has forced the blue team to be off the map for quite a while. I don't know which objectives they're parlaying it into. I was hoping that they would finish off this top camp up here and try to 2-camp again. Now that you know the Titan's not going to spawn in the middle of it, if your opponent has to hang back and defend it, you're in great shape to pick up a lot of bio shards and try to replenish that high-tech army that before got so low on health off.
Right. Looks like this Purifier count getting nice and high up again. It's going to do a lot of damage, have a lot of zone control, but he does need to be careful with them. Against all of the threats, the Aquadillas jumping in, the Heat Waves coming in, Apocalypse blasting it, the Deadeyes, it's a really, really fragile glass Carming Army, yeah.
But you know what he's just gotten? He's just picked up 2 pretty critical things trying to make that work. Picked up a Wind Ray, that makes the range on those fires even longer, makes them really scary, really hold areas well.
Yep.
And the Zephyr, and that helps keep things away from those Purifiers, or if something gets on top of them, helps push those things away real fast.
Exactly. A lone Batterhorn in here, picking up some shards, I think, for his team.
Horn.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a bold guy.
Cool. A nice plated shell onto this Aquadilla to stop all those snipes, mitigating the damage.
Yep.
Mitigating
it's
the poke.
only one piece of plate for you.
Yeah.
You get the timing right.
And that actually, it seems pretty meaningless at this point in time, but actually, if you'll remember, those units took a lot of chip damage in the last fight, and that's what allowed Double D to actually return fire and answer onto those. A lot of those low health, high HP pool tank units that got really low from all that constant Deadeye chip, and the Purifiers getting a little damage here and there.
Yeah.
That's his job. I mean, these can't melt the tanks by any means, but they can do consistent, sustained chip damage.
I think that's part of what you need with most teams. You can do a lot of work with burst damage in the early game, but this game has gone much later. You know,
yep.
There's a lot more stuff on the field. You really want to have some sorts of chip things down, really during the Titan fight. I think you know your enemy's going to be engaged in the middle area.
Yes, yes. And I think both teams are trying to set up again for this next Titan. This could be potentially a game-ending Titan, depending on how the fight goes. Red is actually having a little bit of trouble getting zoned out here by some nice heat waves.
Some nice heat waves coming right on top of those purifiers. He's got to move them now. Oh,
we've got a nice icy breath up here on the left. These heat waves are really wrecking this purifier line, down to just 2 purifiers. Drago is going in for the kill, trying to finish him off completely.
And he finished off another one.
A nice cleansing light to zone him out a little bit. Not going to get any units for it, but Blue took a substantial lead with those nice heat waves down here and trading pretty well on the top because Slimer had some nice icy breaths. We can see that reflected in the Army Alive tab, up by 60 energy and a fair number of shards. See how they actually pressure.
I think Doctor has to try to get those purifiers back up. 2 purifiers is good, but it's really not as scary as 7.
Drago getting in a nice pick onto the trebuchet. That's gonna open up a lot of this zone that was giving them trouble.
That's very nice.
Oh my gosh, a nice engage by Oswan.
You know, he tries to use the ult to get away, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
It's not going to be enough. He's going to clean up Double D's army. A little bit of an overextension, and the Titans are now up. That evens this army count a little bit back, bringing Red back into the fight just a bit.
No, but I think Blue has all the pieces of the combo set up here that he wants to do. It looks like he's going to get a decent freeze over on the right, not an amazing one, but there's really not much of a follow-up. The Titan, on the other hand, may do it for him. It's a nice chunky unit stun there.
These Red Aquadills getting really low, a nice intervention.
You know, I really like the intervention. Pretty much all game long. Yeah. It's mitigated a lot of damage.
Yeah, but Drago is really healthy right now. Still has 3 Apocalypse, getting an easy pick onto that 1 Purifier. Without the Wind Ray and without the Zephyr, without a really high Quadrupus count, it's going to be tough to keep those Purifiers alive.
Yeah, or alive and positioned at a point where they're scary.
Exactly.
Right now, they're getting good damage onto the Titan, but Drago Mandrill can sit back here with all of his damage in Devil King Dervishes. Ooh, and a great stun coming out from the red team. But it's answered by another stun in the other direction.
Both teams hold this Batterhorn, pushes everything back.
Hero Batterhorn knocking the Eris ultimate away. Looks like a dive into the backline by the 2 Aquadillos on Blue.
Yeah, Blue's tank line is going down. It's melting. These Batterhorns are actually doing a fair amount of work, and Red still has most of their tanks alive still, but Drago is looking really healthy. He needs to be super careful.
He's got to get out of there. Oh!
Amazing Trebuchet barrage. The Trebuchet coming back up, clearing most of Drago's army. They're trading blows back and forth. Double E's actually looking fairly healthy now.
It's a very close game. You know, and that it looked like those were all going to get away cleanly, but the great jump in by those Aquadillos slowed all those units down, kept them in that flat, and let the Trebuchet finish all those units off.
Exactly. Now this is all about Double D versus these pretty low tanks. These tanks are getting super hurt. He's just trying to chip them down and stay in the fight. The Titans are both getting really low. Siggy's just trying to...
good snipe there.
Yep, and Siggy's just trying to finish off with these Bramble Thorns.
You know, and this is sort of a situation we've seen before, right? Double D manages to live with at least a lot of his Raptors. It's going to be very close.
And they barely get the Titan. A nice intervention to give a little bit more health to the to the Bramble Thorn.
You know, good micro there, microing it in and out of that photosynthesis, laying down those intervals of live.
Right.
Because if you can just keep it alive at the end of the Titan, now you can heal it back to full while the other team has this.
That was really actually quite interesting. I think we have to go back and rewatch to see how much damage the red team was getting out onto those Titans in the middle of that fight. Because Blue has an army advantage, but that likely meant that Red was buying time and getting more damage out on the Titan than Blue was. Blue has more AoE damage, and Double D's been focusing most of his damage onto that double tank comp, but I think Red was able to use that time that they were buying with those high health pool units just to clear the Titan faster.
You know, and this is a really scary Titan now.
This is a very scary Titan.
An interesting choice to go for this other tower on the other side.
Yep.
You don't see that a lot, because usually you can attack this sort of wider side on the right.
Right. And now Blue they have no structures except the archive. If we look at their vision right now, they don't see much.
It's a very scary place.
Yeah, they do have 3 Sentinels, which is really giving them a bit of a foothold into the map. If Red can clear these, Blue's going to feel very scared to contest some of these.
And there's a lot of objectives up right now.
Exactly, the hard camp's still up.
Medium camps, at least a medium camp inside each base.
Right.
And this is looking a little rough. Then again, they held off Titan, and Double D has a pretty big set of army.
Right.
They can hold.
And the thing about these Titans, they get very strong later in the game. One Titan for blue, if it's healthy enough, could push through all these structures that they haven't been able to do damage on and actually end the game. Any Titan, even a rogue push with a good Hydra Assault from red could just end the game at any point. So blue needs to be careful not to leave themselves exposed. They need to be able to respond quickly. If they get caught out of position, red could just run in there in the front door and end it.
Yeah, and you touched on a point that often we gloss over, which is if you get a good health Titan. Part of the Titan fight, the nice thing about it is that if you've done a lot of damage to the other Titan, the one that attacks you, even if you lose, isn't completely all-powerful. It doesn't end the game if you contested it really hard.
Exactly.
And that was really well contested. It came down to the wire, but it wasn't quite enough by itself.
Yeah, and that's what we sort of saw, is that the Titan fights have been pretty close so far.
Yeah. I mean, this has been a close game, and the fights have been close, and I think the feel of the map right now reflects that. Blue definitely in a scarier position to hang on to this game.
Right. It's going to come down to this last fight. They have to win this. And if they win it, there's a chance they can turn around and end right away.
Certainly could.
It's just going to depend on how much army is left over, who wins the Titan fight.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it's going to hang on how well Double D can stay protected. He's usually felt pretty safe a lot of these engagements and use that to get a lot of damage done from afar. But a Quadrip or a Aquadillo can change that really fast. And if he dives some of those in on Double D's army, it could look really ugly. The great flank opportunity here if you choose to take it.
Yeah, this Sentinel's giving them a lot of nice vision. Aswan is trying to position, close in on these squishy red and white units. The Heat Wave's doing a good job of separating Team I again. The red team, nice picks onto the Purifiers. It's big. Pretty big Destructive Prophecy, man. He must have some pretty good upgrades. He's got AP level 3. That's usually just an AoE spell that you want to use on those squishier units, but you can see getting a lot of damage out onto Sigi's Batterhorns.
Yeah, and it doesn't quite have the emotional impact as, killing a bunch of tier 1s, but that amount of damage on those really high health units can't be underestimated. Because once you've got that done, then Double D can start picking those off pretty well.
Yeah.
A little bit of chip damage from far can get those in a very scary place very fast.
This is a bit of a silly ion cannon. No structures in range to pressure, but still able to pull Double D around. He just didn't like having that red circle in the minimap. It's insulting.
Right,
exactly. Oh, a nice Conduit Blast, getting a lot of picking off a Deadeye and a fair number of Raptors. So it was a pretty good trade for him.
But being rooted in position has its costs, and the Deadeye
who's able to answer
coming out from the other side killed it just as.
These interventions have been so on point, keeping a lot of these really squishy, fragile red units alive against these heat waves.
Well, and this is a similar case to what we've seen before.
Yep.
Now, starting the engagement, red team is already kind of low on health on a number of these units.
Sigi's trying to get a nice flank here with the Batterhorns, but a lot of them go down. He gets a lot of Double D's armies, and then an ultimate coming down for Dr. It's a fair number of Double D's army. Not as much as it could have been if those Batterhorns had stayed alive a little bit longer.
There was another one there that sort of charged in.
Follow up, yep. But that whole time, they distracted for so long, they got so much damage onto the Titan. Ults coming out from both sides. These Purifiers are doing a lot of work. They managed to stay up, but there's an Aquadillo in the back line getting some good work onto them.
And I think this pulled Double D out of position enough that he couldn't hang back and just shoot. And a lot of those units are dead now.
Yeah, and Drago's army is really low. He's gonna go. They have to go back.
Off.
Yeah,
I think they're aside from a few units here that are desperately trying to stay in it. Good snipe.
Double D is really keeping his Titan barely alive again. Red team is so close to being able to kill it and end the game. That'll end the game for sure. They don't even need an army. So blue is hanging on for dear life at the moment. They have to protect this Titan.
Yeah, I think the red team just has to go for it. It's low enough health now that a few swings of those high damage units, these Aquadillos and the Ice Frogs, could do it, but they want to go for the throat, they want to go for the units.
Yeah, Oswald doing a great job of bowling off here, but his units are getting kind of low. This is a really scrappy Titan fight. A nice re-engage.
Yep. If he's got a freeze here, that'll be done.
I think they're just going to try to DPS this down now. The Quadrupus actually, from the blue side, trying to keep the Titan alive a little bit. But I think that's likely going to do it. Red has a pretty healthy, scary 34-minute Titan.
And it's a great finale, though. You know, starting with that Batterhorn charge that looked excellent, the near miss on that ultimate from Celeste.
Right. The interesting thing about that, though, I think, is the story has been that Sigi has been able to use his Batterhorns to draw a lot of attention. They're drawing a lot of attention with relatively little amount of their DPS. That whole time they were able to focus down Blue's Titan, while Blue was completely distracted just trying to keep their stuff alive.
I mean, the Batterhorn is certainly a unit that feels scary, even if it doesn't do a lot of damage, because it shoves you around.
Yep.
And that feels bad when so much of what you do in this game is manage where your units are, position them carefully to keep them alive, and somebody can just come in and slam them against the wall.
Yeah.
And it really hurts. It really distracts you. Makes you pay attention.
Yeah.
Oh,
and a well-fought game from both teams.
We got the GGs coming out from both sides, and that was a wonderful game.
Yep. Cool, so let's take a look at the post-game stats. Still live, actually, still finishing up.
There we go. Let's flip back over to the other.
One of these screens. There we go. Great. Did you see if we have another match coming up that we can spectate, and I'll sort of take a look at these graphs with you guys. Group by teams. So you can see, really close game. The story of the game, honestly, I think came down to the fact that Team I... let me close it back real quick. Team I was able to distract with a small number of their units while getting a lot of unanswered damage out on the Titan. They weren't slaughtering the blue team's army by any means. They had a few really clean fights, but all in all, they were just able to sustain and stay in those Titan fights, get a lot of damage while distracting with some Batterhorns, with some ultimates. And while Double D and Drago were trying to pick off with their really squishy, fragile, high damage units, they had to spend so much time repositioning and trying to stay alive, they couldn't actually just DPS down their own Titan. Take a look at the income. It looks like that Team I had a decent advantage for most of the game, but they weren't really able to widen it until we start to see all those structures fall. I think that's sort of the push when see these little spikes here, when they kill these structures and then pick up the shards. They were able to just slowly and steadily increase their advantage. So really clean game from them. They got a small advantage early and just sort of maintained it. They had a good game plan of just using their tank heavy composition to distract, be a bulky front line, get in the other team's face, and DPS down the Titan.
Well, so what do we got? Let's take a quick break, and we'll set the other game up, and we'll come back to you in maybe 3 minutes.
Perfect. We'll be right back.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Choose your hero.
Hey guys, welcome back.
Hi.
Sorry about the echo on stream earlier. I think it should be
resolved now.
Yeah, our phones were blowing up, and we just kind of awkwardly...
You're like, whatever, guys. We're casting. Don't bother us.
Yeah. So we're about to hop into the winners bracket finals match. I'm going to show the bracket really quickly before we do that. Let's see if I can get this to work. Cool. So this is the winners bracket finals. We've got Snurp Inferno and Team Teddy. These are mostly players from the pre-alpha, actually, that have been testing with us for the last couple of months.
So on Snurp Inferno, we have Jagalius, Ilya, and Nib.
Yep. Nib and Ilya have played a ton of games. Jagalius is pretty new. He's a Grandmaster Protoss player.
I think so.
StarCraft 2, I believe, or he says he is. Have to check it out.
The results, I think, would test to that.
Yep. So we're going to show that match, and we'll talk about Team Teddy once we get into the deck picker.
Sounds great.
And then we have the lower bracket happening right now as well, and we'll cast the lower bracket finals and all the matches.
So right after this game, we'll hop into that one, assuming it's ready to go.
So let's go ahead and get into the deck picker. So on the left, we have Snurp Inferno. That's Nib, Milia, long-time playtesters, really good players. Jagalius, a pretty new player. Grandmaster, StarCraft 2 player, fantastic. On the other side, on the right, we have Team Teddy.
Team Teddy.
So Tedster and Bombs have also been...
2 long-time testers as well.
Yeah, Bombs, I believe, is also a Grandmaster Terran player. I'll go with that confidently, Terran.
Sure, just say it.
He could be Protoss.
There's nobody here to countermand us.
Yeah, I mean, he's an excellent StarCraft 2 player as well. But here, I think also a pretty new tester as well.
I think in a
playing
recent
quite
round,
well,
but is doing great.
Right. Cool. So let's go ahead and go into the deck picker and see what's happening. So again, the draft format that we're trying out for this tournament, our game is really complex in terms of its picks, so we're trying a simple draft format for now. So Team Snurp Inferno, Nib, Jagalius, and Milia. We're going to pick 1 hero and units, lock it in. Team Teddy on the right, they're going to pick 2, lock in. They'll go back to the left, they'll pick their final 2, and then go back to the right to pick the final spot. So Jagalius, no surprise here, he's been playing Eris. So what is this composition all about?
This composition is about making massive circles that kill things really fast.
Yeah.
But it's also about speed, and I think that is an important piece of it.
Yep.
You want to get these high power abilities out and get them quickly, but you also want these Devilkin Dervishes, which don't have abilities that do damage, but they have abilities that speed you up a lot.
Yeah.
And once you get a critical mass of them, you can move in and out of combat so fast that you can get those opportunities. Lay down those
exactly. It
powerful
lets
AoEs.
you stay away and keep your own things alive and close the gap when you sense there's a vulnerability. So to respond, we see Blood Air picking actually Vex, a different red hero. Has different properties than Ares. We can talk about that. But again, the core of the army is the same. Dervish, Apocalypse, Emberfiend. Lots of mobility, lots of AoE. He's picking up a Warp Drone. And we see Bombs as well picking up a Warp Drone. 2 Warp Drones. Warp Drones allow you to recall an army to where the Warp Drone is. You can sneak it around the side of the map. It gives you a lot of threat potential onto the enemy's archive.
Well, and having 1 on 2 players on the team means this is not an idle idea.
No.
This is a strategy.
This is a deliberate choice. Now we see they've locked that in. Bomb's going for a very tanky Batterhorn, Bramblethorn, and a Sludge. That's a lot of hit points. Got a Trebuchet to add some additional zone control. So he's looking to get in the front line, get in the face, similar to the way we saw Siggy play in last game.
It'll be interesting to see how quickly he can get those units up, or if he elects to stay on more of the tier 1 composition for a long time.
Yes.
Those are very high tier units. There is nothing in that group that costs low amounts of bioshards.
Yep.
So he's going to have something to sort of bridge that gap for a long time, or just accept being not very powerful for much of the game.
We'll see how quickly he rushes for the Bramblethorn. Some people elect to get them out of the first Titan fight for going everything else. Some people like to power on upgrades for a bit and then make a transition with some stronger, a little more beefier tank units. So let's go back over to Snurp Inferno. Nib and Milia picking up a nice Hydros and a Grath to
It's
answer.
a very tanky composition to sort of protect that fragile core of Jagalius' casters.
Yeah.
But by the same reasoning that we saw the Quadrupie really effective last game, I think Nib will be able to do that and protect his allies.
Yep. And it's interesting to look at the differences here. So far we've got red and green, we've got a red and a green over here, but we're already seeing some slight variations. Vex instead of Eris. We see Milia actually opting not to pick up the sludge at all, and I think sort of panic picking a sentinel and a drone to help give their team a little bit of mobility to try and deal with what looks to be a drone gambit. Nib picking up a standard Aquadil Ice Frog combo. We saw that in action last game with the Quadrupus to provide that intervention, that plated shell, keep everything alive against a lot of that really, really devastating AoE. And picking up a nice Shadow as well.
This could be fun. I mean, one of the really cool plays, I mean, we've seen sort of the Ice Frog stun into Apocalypse Blast multiple times. That's very effective. But almost as effective and definitely more surprising is the Shadow slow into Apocalypse Blast. If you're not playing very carefully with vision, and there's only one player with Sentinels on this squad, then you can get those set up pretty well, and they are very surprising and very devastating.
Yep. And so we see the full triple warp drone coming out from Team Teddy. So they're looking to apply a lot of pressure onto the archive. Sensing whenever Snurp Inferno is out of position, they're just going to go for the kill. He's also getting a Shadow, so we could see some two-sided Shadow play.
This could be fun.
Could be interesting.
So I think another interesting part here is Nib has not elected to go with the warp drone. One thing that we've seen a lot of Hydra's players do recently, you do the warp drone gambit into the back, you use the ultimate ability to stay alive and do enough damage to the archive. And Nib's not going to take that. That isn't an option for them, as it is for Tedster and Bombs and Bloodier.
Right. It is interesting to see Tedster not picking up a Quadrupus. That can provide some much needed additional defensive abilities for your team to stay on that archive for a little bit longer, or keep your Titan in the fight a little bit longer. It can mitigate a lot of damage when the name of the game, honestly, if you might be to be, get onto the archive and get as much damage before you die, basically.
So if they do that while the game sort of starts up here, if they go that hard and do a 3 warp drone gambit onto the back, as the other team, how do you respond to that? Milia is the only one with the warp drone on that team. What do you do?
Well, what they're going to likely do is try to get Quadrupie onto the archive, throw down some interventions, try and keep the archive alive longer, give it a higher HP pool. Nib's going to try to get in there with some Shadows and some Ice Frogs to try and disrupt, slow things, freeze them, prevent damage, last out. Hydros' ultimate ability, which keeps everything alive. And Yagalius is just looking to follow up with a lot of damage. He could be going a Sandstinger route, actually. He's getting a lot of Sandstingers early on, but he is powering a lot of shards. I think he will transition into that more AoE heavy composition, which means in those archive fights, he's just going to want to blast everything, focus targets down quickly to get rid of their damage, and just try to hold on.
So, I mean, he's definitely heading towards higher tech right now. He's researching tech 2, but he's tying up a lot of his early supply in those Sandstingers. Do you think that he believes that the other team is going to go for a pretty heavy Bramblethorn play?
I think he does. I think he's trying to get enough single target damage out for this first Titan fight. Sandstingers can provide a lot of nice damage against those early Bramblethorns. I don't think he's looking to stay on it because he's powering so many shards right now, but we'll have to see soon. Milia getting some nice work on with his troopers, keeping everything alive, providing a little bit of time for Nib to just farm up safely. Meanwhile, down here, Yagalius doing some nice little double farming, picking off the grubs, picking off the caterpillars, the critters.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going so hard into bio shards on your generators, you really want to be taking all the other shards on the map that you...
Right. And Tedster doing a very similar thing, using his Scuttle Guards to clear this camp while he was farming the critters here. These players are being really good about how they're multitasking. We didn't see as quite crazy of a brawl in the middle this time. It was a bit more of a standard opening.
A bit more sedated.
Yeah, a bit more standard. Both teams just kind of took the stuff on their side, poked a bit, used small forces to get a little bit more efficient shard income.
Nib having a little bit of an exploration here, looking for the vision that the other team has gotten, and now trying to swing back in now that Bombs is sort of extended here and try to get some slows down. Oh, but Bombs just moves out of range.
Gets out barely. A good
dash
posturing here from both teams. We do see Milia with the fast Bramblethorn, sort of as we expected, and Bombs also. Fast Bramblethorn of his own. Bloodier going pretty heavy Spitfire and 2 Dervishes. This is also looking to get a lot of damage out on that Bramblethorn. We see a bit of a fight happening before the Titan's even up. A nice little surround by Nib and a shadow coming in. What is this going to do? Is this going to catch Bloodier's army out? It
does.
Slows a bunch of stuff, but they might not be able to get a nice follow-up on it.
On this. Yep. I mean, that's one thing with getting the shadow early. You know, it's effective. You can get it out. You can slow a bunch of stuff, but you don't have any strong AoE.
A nice pick onto bombs, though. That means he's not going to have that safeguard to keep his Bramblethorn alive. That hurts its sustainability quite drastically. Another shadow coming in here. This one is ready. Are they going to follow up onto it? He wants desperately to get it. I think Bloodier senses it. He can see the hand is tipped a little bit. They had a little bit of protection from this tower. I'm going to pull back with this shadow a little bit. You know,
both Bramblethorns should be roughly entering the field now. We've got one to the red side already down in the Titan swinging at it. It's going to start the DPS race running. And you know, these Spitfires also do a considerable amount of damage. We've got another great slow on here.
Can he follow up? He gets one Spitfire. He's also delaying a lot for his team, which is pretty big. Getting a lot of work with these Scuttle Guards. Not losing much. Going to lose one here. But the Bramblethorns are out now. And what's going to be key is how both teams keep them alive. A good heal from Tetzer onto bombs as Bramblethorn. Milia is getting a little oversended and goes down.
We have a shadow from the other side now.
Shadow from the other side getting a nice surprise onto Yale's Sand Singers. A lot of them go down. That hurts their damage quite a bit. And their Bramblethorn getting out just barely. It's going to need to heal up.
And that was one of the tools that I think they were going to use to kill this early Bramblethorn from red. And the damage just isn't really there anymore.
This Bramblethorn is really giving Yale's some trouble. He's getting damage out, but it's going to be able to heal up back up pretty easily.
And now,
really
now that he's made it back to his hero, he can just safeguard it and really not worry about it.
And a nice Sentinel out here, detecting this shadow early on. So this shadow is not hidden at all whatsoever. A nice stun onto these dervishes. Might pick one off. A good heal.
That's pretty good.
A good heal, but the shadow provides a lot of nice peel to keep them both alive. That's huge. These cost a fair number of shards. You don't want to lose them early because as the red player, you're really looking to power quickly and get to those apocalypses.
Definitely. I mean, and as we've seen, the shadow plays to slow everything down to make them vulnerable.
Good safeguard by bombs.
Have been excellent, but we haven't seen the follow-up yet. Haven't hit that level of tech.
Yep. And we see a really fast Ice Frog from Tetzer. This is interesting. I haven't seen an Ice Frog out in the first Titan fight really ever. It's very uncommon.
I can't recall. And part of that may be that this Titan fight has gone on quite a long time.
It has. They've stalled it out quite a bit.
Oh, and a nice avoidance there of the Ice Frog.
Yeah, a good little sidestep by Milia.
Just outside of that cone.
Safeguard keeps the Bramblethorn alive against the Apocalypse as well.
Ooh. If this Bramblethorn goes down, and it does, that's a big threat.
Bomb's keeping his own alive with a nice safeguard, but this one's about to fall. He's got another one up still. Yagales is going to want to shoot this down. He's got a 3 Apocalypse army already. Yeah, that's what the shards were about.
This has hit the scary composition now. You've got enough speed on these Devilkins to really move around the map. And you've got these Apocalypse to flatten everything.
Yep. And God, these Titans have stayed up forever. They're both pretty low. It's been pretty even trades. This is such a high tier army for the first Titan.
Who's going to be sort of the first to try to engage on together? We're seeing sort of a lot of posturing, right?
Yeah.
A little bit of standoffishness. You have to get to the other side and start DPSing the other one.
Milia's Bramblethorn's going in. Nice dodge.
Nice slow motion dodge.
Yeah, slow dodge by bombs' Bramblethorns. Nib's looking to engage on them.
Ooh, and a nice freeze here.
But a nice freeze to lock down this Aquadilla. It's going to go down. This one Bramblethorn getting safeguarded.
Is he going to walk away with that Aquadilla? Oh, wonderful.
A nice pick off by Yagalius.
Oh, and a nice pick off on that Apocalypse.
Yep. And I think Snurpenfront is barely going to get control of this. We'll be able to finally finish off this Titan.
I think that's it. I think they've got it.
They've got it. That was an extended fight. As you can see, it's already 7 minutes in. All the medium camps are up right now. They might have been deliberately delaying that to use this as split push pressure and take this medium camp that's otherwise generally pretty safe for the red team.
Yeah, and that's a really nice play. If you can time it out right, you know that the Titan's going to push and force your enemy to deal with it.
Exactly.
If you time out when it finishes well, you can essentially dictate the enemy's position.
Yep. Nice, crisp timing. Very decisive decision from the blue team to do that. They don't get anything out of this Titan, but they do distract, and now red team didn't have vision over here. They didn't know. If they had known, they could have contested Milia here, but they're going to go check
their medium camp, and now they're going to be very disappointed.
Yep, that's the power of vision. It's crazy, but they are going to answer with an ion cannon down here, see if it can get some work done. its own. But these Sentinels have really paid off for the blue team. They have really quite amazing vision right now. They see all of this medium camp stuff right now. It's already gone, but they're seeing them clear their easy camp. They see what's going on, what's protecting the ion cannon. And it looks like they're just going to back off and start clearing camps on their own.
You know, and it's difficult to sort of understand how much value you're going to get out of that vision. Like, it's 2 supply, it takes a while to build. How valuable is it compared to more army units?
It's a very abstract
The value of not being surprised or knowing where your enemy is just huge.
Amelia's trying to pick off this Sentinel with his own nice heal onto the Sentinel. I think both teams are trying to realize the importance of the Sentinels, of that vision control, because it really is what gave the blue team this medium camp edge, and we're starting to see that in the income a fair amount. They are generating more, an extra 200, but overall they've gathered an extra 300, 400 on top of that, and that's really mostly from the medium camp.
And here we have a Sentinel trying to be picked off,
and it
goes
off.
down.
He actually even wanted to use a Destructive Prophecy just really to finish it off.
I mean, that really tells you how valuable,
how important it is, right? Because these are long cooldown units, and usually you're looking to land them to really kill some of the bulk of your opponent's army, but just to use it on a Sentinel is very telling, as you said. So let's take a second to look at the upgrades, see how that's going. Really no one opting to get early upgrades.
Yeah, I mean, I'm unsurprised by the one that Jagelius has, that self-fulfilling prophecy on the Apocalypse. Makes it do the reduced cooldown per unit you hit, so as you get better about landing them, the better and better that upgrade gets, the more value you get out of it back up swiftly. That makes it much easier to use those Apocalypses on clearing things like this.
And you really just couldn't, they didn't have the shards to start those really early upgrades because they spent so much on getting to Tech 3 so fast. Now Jagelius is pumping so many upgrades right now, getting upgrades for his dervishes to make the zone a little larger for their aura. Also pumping all 4 of the Tech 1 stat upgrades.
And that's the sacrifice that you have to take when you're trying to get so many high-tech units out early, right? You get the power early because you got the units, but the upgrades take time. So you're starting that upgrade path later.
Right.
But if you don't lose any units, then you don't need to use that production for anything else.
That's right. And speaking of production, Bloodier has gone with a different style entirely, right? He's not getting those upgrades at all. He's using all these shards to get more Ember Fiends, and he hasn't even researched a 3rd production slot yet. He's sitting on 2, so he's not planning on getting many upgrades, getting many units, losing much. We'll see if he pivots after this.
It's a very bold strategy.
It is.
Like, when you do that and then you lose your army,
it takes a long time to rebuild.
long time to rebuild.
Yep. But we'll see, because of that, they do have an army advantage right now. They're a little behind in the upgrades, but since they've been opting just to spend all their shards on army units, Tetzer getting some upgrades now for himself. They're going to have a stronger army probably for this fight, which could be pretty critical.
Yeah, and that's another interesting thing about those sort of unit-based upgrades as opposed to stat upgrades. By and large, they don't take quite as long to finish, so the red team may hit another power spike here where those upgrades finish. Before the sort of stat upgrades that Jagelius has done.
Yep.
That may be what gives them an edge here.
Yep. So the big difference is here. We've got similar Bramblethorn counts and similar Blue armies, but the big difference is in how the red is playing. Jagelius is going to have all those stat upgrades. Bloodier has a couple Ember Fiends, which is big, and that's really the big thing. And you got Eris and Vex, but otherwise they're playing very similar styles this game. One thing to note is that the hard camps are up right now, or they will be up very soon for this Titan fight, so we'll see if that becomes a factor. An ice freeze by Nib, getting a bunch of them, but in a good counter move by Tetzer.
Huge set of
that's a ton of damage onto Nib's blue army.
Oh, and an Eris follow-up as well.
Yeah, all of Nib's units going down very quickly. Tetzer losing his tanks as well. The blue on both sides are melting. We see a really healthy set of Bramblethorns from Ilia, whereas Teddy's team,
you know, true to their strategy though, like Bloodier's production slot gambit really didn't lose many units.
No.
You know, the fight as a team, you know, it looks like blue came out on top. But the sacrifices that Bloodier made in terms of production, he hasn't, you know, taken a loss for it.
You saw that really good dodge from Bloodier, using a Dervish to speed up his units briefly to get out of the way. He's kept all of his units alive so far, which is really impressive, but Tetzer lost a lot of tanks pretty quickly in that fight. It was an interesting trade, but ultimately this is going to give
one problem with this very heavy ability-based style is that you don't have as much just pure auto attack damage to kill these Titans when they do come in. And so you really need to win them more decisively in the middle, because now it's just going to take you so long. I'm interested to see if the blue team here chooses to try to 2-camp this and go very hard down to this bottom camp, because they know that the other team's dealing with this Titan. They can see from the vision that it grants them up there.
This Titan's not doing much other than distracting. He got one outer tower. I'm not sure he'll even get this warp spire. It's going to be really close. No, it goes down actually, and blue is making a sprint over to the bottom hard camp. Does red have vision of it? They don't actually see it. They see this ion cannon, which might pull them down there, but red does know. They got vision of this somehow. They don't see this camp up, which
I think they can smell it though. I think they know. If you're playing in this situation and you know your opponent was probably in the upper left, I think you know that they're going to try to head down to the bottom.
Yeah, and blue has gotten it started, but Yelius is a little bit behind. See if red can capitalize in this slight miscommunication,
and so this is a very scary moment. This is a tight area.
Yeah, Yagalius really needs to get behind his tanks right now. Tedster and bombs zoning him out very clearly.
What's wonderful about this tight area here is that the trebuchet has just come up, and that helps knock out
really good zoning
here a lot.
These heat waves are going to come through from Yagalius to try and zone out.
You know, by the same token, zoning for the other side, these heat waves are wonderful for locking down those units.
Yep. See, it looks like Bloodyear's going to go back and heal. Again, he's looking to keep everything alive. I think he's still just on 2 slots. He's getting a warp drone and that first AP upgrade.
So it looks like blue chose to take the big ground-based creature out of the hard camp here.
Yep, but they don't have much air damage right now without Bloodyear. He might come down and clear it. We'll see what they decide to do. Tedster just whomping on some
No, but you know what? I think that's a good trade. When you sat down there, you got all of one hard camp. You got a substantial part of another one, and you haven't taken any damage. I think it's a good time to say, okay, you can have the dregs of whatever's left. We'll take whatever else is left.
Exactly. Yeah, so Bloodyear is clearing this out while bombs clears. At least the ground guy here is not going to be able to do much about these areas.
Those bramble thorns are going to have a hard time looking up.
Yep, but they can mess some caterpillars up for sure. And it looks like, actually, I think Amelia's looking to be a little aggressive here, maybe poke down, take down this outer tower.
Interesting choice to engage this tower here. I don't think he knows that the bramble thorns are right around the corner.
And a nice little zoning trebuchet shot right here. It's going to split up Milia and Nib. Can they capitalize on it? Bombs. And we see Tedster coming in to try and cut off Milia's army. Gets one of the bramble thorns.
Freeze, but that really doesn't feel like enough.
We'll see if Bloodyear and Yagalius are really scared of each other right now. They're just using all of their destructive prophecies to zone. All of the destructive prophecies are down right now, so we're going to have to wait for those cooldowns to come back up. I mean, their sludge is doing a lot of work, locking down these bramble thorns into the trebuchet blast, actually. Getting a fair amount of damage on them.
You know, engaging those sludges, ooh, and a big hit from Jagalius on Bloodyear's army.
That's big.
That matchup between those two red players is just so tense.
That is bloody.
The range is just about the same because you've got the same units, and all it is just a little bit of position and a little bit of that dervish speed over the edge.
And he did manage to keep all of his apocalypses alive, but he only has one dervish. That's not a lot of mobility, so he's leaving himself susceptible to another follow-up from Jagalius because he just won't be able to get out of the way of those destructive prophecies. He has one speed aura to use, basically.
And, you know, as we covered in the last game, that means you sort of got to choose when you use it. You can use it to get out, you can use it to get in, but maybe not both. Ooh, the red warp play begins.
Yes, so while this game, so far, it's gone pretty decisively for Snurpin from our blue team. They've been able to get good map control just from clean Titan fights and some good picks. It's going to get scary now that these warp drones are out on the field. We'll see if they can properly defend. You know, resource advantage only matters so much as long as you're being really vigilant about protecting your archive.
Yeah, I mean, a good warp play can change the entire game really fast.
Yep.
And can dramatically swing what this game looks like and even just end the game decisively.
Yep. These Titans are up now. This trebuchet is really forcing Jagalius to sort of cheat over to this left side a little bit. Looks like Bloodyear still has his 3 apocalypses, but only 1 dervish, so he's got to be really careful right now. This heat wave doing a good job of zoning out. Sludge getting into the mix.
An icy breath the sludge helps land a little bit of a slow there. Yeah, a little bit for it. We got the ultimate from Hydros coming down to help protect some of the stuff that's engaged, maybe from those bramble thorns
This Sludge is really zoning out, protecting Bloodier quite well. No one can get in range of him. Sludge is still alive, but Yagalius answers with a nice ultimate of his own, getting a lot of damage onto the Sludge, and he finishes off barely. Tedster looking pretty fragile right now, just has an Ice Frog left. Bomb's almost going down, and Destructive Prophecy doesn't finish him off. A good safeguard. But good play from Ilia, keeping 2 Bramblethorns alive in that fight.
Keeping those alive, even with just a sliver, means that you can get it back to full health by the time the next engagement rolls.
Yep, I think they're going to take this Titan pretty cleanly. They're using that resource advantage to just eke out these fights really carefully. In that fight, if Bloodier had those heat waves up, those Ember Fiends still, and those Dervishes, he would have been able to answer back pretty easily.
You know, in that narrow choke where that Sludge was, just put in a heat wave or 2 right down that line.
Exactly.
It really makes people have to think about what.
Exactly.
A good Frost Breath from the high ground helps slow this push a little bit.
And I think actually Blue is just going straight for the win right now. Bloodier still has a pretty healthy army, but I don't know if Tedster and Bombs can get much up in time. I think all of the Hydra's ults are down though, so Blue does have to be really careful. A nice
big hits there, but
hits
not enough to finish things off.
Doesn't have the AP upgrades, can't quite finish off Galeas' army.
Ooh, and a freeze onto the backline here. That may be all
getting onto the archive, but everything's really low. A really good heat wave. Can they finish? This is really all in for Blue. This could hurt a lot if they can't finish this off, but they're getting a bunch of damage down.
They got enough damage down. There's nothing to follow up and kill it.
Yeah, that was actually quite a gutsy call, pretty bold. They had an army advantage, they had a pretty healthy Titan, but just a few more seconds from Red, if they had lost a little bit less in that engagement and been able to pull back, save some more, they could have actually probably wiped those armies and maybe done like a Warp Drone counter push or win the next Titan fight.
Yep.
But that was a very interesting game to see.
And I think a lot of that was less about the Titan pushing and killing everything, but killing all of the units in the middle just meant there was no damage left over to kill that Titan when it did walk in.
Exactly. And they didn't have, almost as important, all that crowd control and body blocking. The Bramblethorns can just get in your way and just stop your army from getting to the archive. You know, the Titan can march past if it wants to, but the Bramblethorn is going to stop your army and force you to use DPS on it, and it'll scare you too. If you let it get close, you can do a lot of damage. Yeah, and then the Ice Frogs and the Aquadillos, a lot of crowd control to lock things in place for Red to do damage or just to buy time to protect your archive.
I mean, and when you've got that pool of units, I mean, both of these sides have the tools to really swing the game really fast. If you land that frog Frost Breath and then land Apocalypse hits or land heat waves on top of it, you can change a game in a real hurry.
Yeah, and you can see sort of in the graphs, the army fights...
That is amazingly close.
They traded quite well. You just saw subtle differences in the builds that I think really paid dividends for them, and just slight differences in how the fights were.
I mean, it's the difference like between having 1 Devilkin left over and 2.
Yeah.
Right? It's those small advantages that can give you a decisive advantage in the fight later.
Exactly. So what do we got coming up now?
So I think now we're going to move down to the lower bracket, assuming that game is ready. Why don't we take a quick break and we'll set that up, and then we will get back to you shortly.
Excellent.
Stay tuned.
We'll be right back.
Thanks, guys.
Choose your hero.
Hey guys, welcome back.
We're back.
Yep, we're about to hop into the lower bracket now. 4 teams left. This is to decide who goes on to the lower bracket finals to face Team Teddy. So to take a quick look at the bracket. Yep, in the upper bracket finals, we had Snipperfono versus Teddy. Now Snipperfono just won, and they're in the grand finals.
They've got their place locked.
Yep. So down in the lower bracket, the match we're going to watch right now is Snurp Heaven versus Panda Killer.
Snurp Heaven, we haven't seen them recently.
No, not yet, but we're about to. Very soon.
It'll be great.
Yeah. And the winner is going to play Team Teddy, and the winner of that will go on to the grand finals. So, cool, let's hop into the deck picker.
All right.
Now,
here we
magic.
go.
Cool. So, again, draft pick. 1 pick on the left, 2 picks on the right, 2 picks on the left, 1 pick on the right. So we're going to see what they end up going with.
And we're seeing something a little different. We saw first picks of red in both other games, specifically Eris.
Yeah.
Now we've got a first pick of Hydros. A predominantly similar composition, though. Still got the shadows in there. Sort of, I think, foreshadows some of those abilities.
What is interesting about it, like you're saying, is red has actually generally been the staple of every build we've seen in the tournament, pretty much, and so everyone's been picking that first, saying it's not giving away any information. Takawa is showing the shadow early, so saying, hey, you better get Sentinels, you better be ready for this, is a little bit interesting. So we'll see what...
so maybe it's a fake. Maybe they don't run Eris in any AoE whatsoever.
I had talked about this, that this could do a number of things. Also, just picking a shadow. You don't even have to build it. Just the slot itself forces the other team to respond with probably 2 Sentinel picks of their own, just to be safe.
Now, you get a lot of value out of those Sentinel picks anyway.
Yeah,
that map vision is definitely good.
But it can force you off some other plan you might have had to go for Engineers, to go for Juggernauts. Also, just to step back for a second, we've got, of course, introducing our teams. We have Snurp Heaven on the left. That's Takawa, Jornar, and Motiva. A couple of very active, very skilled pre-alpha testers. And Jornar, I believe, is new. I think he started
fairly new.
I think he started when the alpha opened up to the public. He's quite good already, and he has a pretty great stream, so you should check him out.
That's one of the really cool things about the open alpha, is seeing new players come in and just be spectacular.
And they're already catching up to a lot of our really shockingly good pre-alpha testers very quickly.
It's fun to see.
And it's fun to see. And on the right side, we have Panda Killers. Yes. So we have DQME, who has done a fantastic job with Milia to help organize the tournament.
Yeah.
It's also...
it's gone pretty fantastically, I think, in terms of organization. We had the slight hiccup with Twitch earlier, but the tournament has gone very smoothly. So fantastic job to them. Yep.
I saw Storm was streaming on YouTube Gaming during that Twitch outage, which is pretty cool. Pant is a long-term pre-alpha tester. He's been with us for a few months at least. So let's get back into the picks. So
a responsive Hydros pick as well. Predominantly the same plan, but instead of a shadow, has gone for the Juggernaut.
The Juggernaut, yes.
Push. We haven't really seen a lot of lately.
Right, the shadow is a bit of a gimmick in the sense that if you have good vision, it's not going to do much. They're very fragile. You can pick them off really quickly. They can get a lot out if they're not detected, but he's going for this more guaranteed Juggernaut. It's going to put out some split push pressure. So he's saying, I'm not going to try and make a play using a shadow. I'm just going to get the guaranteed Juggernaut pressure. And we see that Storm has gone for Carrier, Vespid Carrier, a drop ship, a transport, and he's picking up a sludge, so he's blatantly...
This could be really interesting.
He's going to use the Carrier with the sludge to try
Storm, show it to us.
Yeah.
I want to see it.
Try and drop it. He also got an Engineer, more split push pressure. They've got a lot of split push pressure with the Juggernaut and an Engineer here. So now let's see
and a lot of zoning tools, a lot of things that say, I've got a big wall in front of me, you can't just walk up to me and fight. And if you have those, you can make those engagements in the middle last a long time. And that can let your split pushing threats get a lot of stuff done,
right,
while you just
hold people in position.
Right, if they drag out that middle fight while they're engineer and while their Juggernaut's doing work, that can be pretty lucrative
and
for
we
them.
saw that last game, right? That middle fight didn't end until around 7 minutes.
It took a very long time, yeah.
And that's enough time to get a Juggernaut and an Iron Cannon out.
And what's interesting about this Zone from Storm is you can use Sludges alone and Trebuchets alone to get a lot of zoning potential, but mixing in the carrier actually, if you control it well, you can extend the amount that or the range of your sludge zoning potential, because the carrier can move around a lot more quickly. It can drop the sludge wherever it wants. You say, okay, you're going to the left, I'm going to drop the sludge in front of you. You're going to the right, I'm going to drop the sludge around you. But you have to be really careful not to lose it, because there's a lot of resources tapped up into it.
Once you show that you've done it once, you don't even have to put the sludge inside.
That's true. It's just a total trick.
You can just drag it around.
Cool. So let's see. Snarp Heaven has responded with a classic Grath and Eris pick. We're seeing very similar, same Eris build that we went over last time. We didn't see Jagalius actually use those Exo Fiends to get split farm, really. He focused all of his shards just on getting to the strongest possible main army.
And in some ways I think that was a good decision. That game, those mid-fights was very tight.
Yeah.
A unit in either way really could mean the difference.
Yeah, and their team already had a decent shard advantage to begin with, and so maybe you don't need to eke out as much of an advantage if you already have one. You're just looking to take the advantage that you have and just win the fight there.
If you don't lose units,
you
don't need to rebuild
units.
That's
right. Jornar not getting a sludge, going Batterhorn, Bramblethorn, Trebuchet, pretty classic pick, getting an engineer of his own. This looks pretty standard from Snarp Heaven. Let's see what the last pick for Panikillers is. One interesting deviation also is this Alder versus this Grath pick. So what does that really mean?
So I think one of the interesting things about picking Alder, particularly with the sludge, is, it's harder to keep that sludge alive. You don't have Safeguard, which is a really great tool to say, oh, my sludge is getting low on health, let me just protect that.
Yep.
And then pick it up. But what you do have with Alder is the ability to just root things in place.
Oh, yeah.
And the sludge is slow, but if something isn't moving, you walk the sludge right on top of it, and then it's never getting away.
Right, so that's a lot of control. Again, playing to this idea of zone control in the middle. He might not be able to keep his units alive as long as Grath, but he's able to control space a little bit better, especially with his ultimate and his.
And the range on that basic ability is pretty long. Just scare your opponent away sometimes by threatening to use it and then walk the sludge on top of them, or to walk those Bramblethorns into them and start laying down some hits. That's one of the things that's very difficult to do with the Bramblethorns and why people use them on the Titan so consistently. It's hard to walk up to people and hit them in the face with those Bramblethorns.
Absolutely.
But if things are rooted,
They'll
a lot
walk down.
easier to get that done.
Definitely true. And it's a lot easier to keep your Bramblethorns alive because things can't chase as much. They're a little more scared of that zoning potential. So on Snarp Heaven, last pick we see Eris, very classic, very standard. You've got the same exact core, DQME following suit pretty much, but he is mixing in an engineer instead of that Exo Fiend. The thing about engineers and juggernauts is that they don't take shards. They don't cost shards. They just take time, production time. And so like you were saying in those fights in the last game where spending a little bit of shards on the Exo Fiend could actually have swung it, right? Those are shards you're not spending on your main army. But engineers, juggernauts, just takes time and a little bit of energy. That's a cost that you can usually afford and not actually take much out of your main army. So we see Panikillers with 2 engineers and a juggernaut. That can create a lot of split push pressure. They're going to want to capitalize on that, drag out these middle fights as long as they can, because on the other side they have 1 engineer. They do have a Snurp Herder.
Ooh.
A Snurp Herder could create some interesting plays with the Shadow as well. So I think that's mainly the name of the game. The Panikillers are trying to put out a lot of split push pressure with their push forces, drag the middle fights out a lot.
Definitely. And even if you don't get a lot of damage done directly with those threats, often you can force the opponent to deal with them.
Yes,
and
exactly.
When you've, built this unit that doesn't cost very much energy, only costs some time, and your opponent has to respond to that with a substantial amount of units to prevent it from doing damage, that's pulling those units away. That's pulling them from some other objective that they could have gotten. A big opportunity cost that you force your opponent to pay.
Exactly. And on the other side, Snurp Heaven, our team on the left, is really just going for a standard style, sort of like what we saw both teams play last game. They're just looking to, again, they have a mix of zone control, they have some crowd control, but they're looking to get a lot of damage out of their red player.
And I'm excited to see how this more asymmetric style plays out. We had a very sort of upfront, very even game last match with two strategies that were really trying to do the same thing. I'm interested to see how this more split pushy threat handle against this upfront damage.
Absolutely. We see a little bit of an engage here from the red team. Panda Killer's getting a little aggressive onto Takala. He hasn't quite leashed these back all the way into his tower. They might be able to steal some of these. Creeps get an early lead. Looks like Takala gets a nice pick off, gets that one.
Ooh,
but they do trade. Meanwhile, the rest of Takala's team clearing this safely. It looks like they're going to try and do an invade of their own, I think, maybe. Nope. They're just going to get some vision, kill some of these critters.
Grabbing some farm. You know, you always want to start with the section that's on the other team's side when you have these caterpillars up. You want to try to grab theirs first when nobody's around.
That's right. That way they can't farm them safely later. You've already killed them. You've already taken them.
And you get the resources yourself. And when you know that nobody else is around, then you don't have to be quite as scared. Extend a little bit further than...
Motiva getting some nice picks onto the Sandstingers is a much healthier count. Takala trying to steal this one caterpillar. I think he gets it. Nice steal. And a great flank from Jornar, blocking up two heroes here. They're going to pick off DQ maybe. Yep, barely.
It's that nice body blocking there with the charge. You know, you see at a split second where you can go to block off that walking path.
That's big. And we see already a huge resource lead from that kill onto the hero coming out from blue team. Takala's been really good about picking off caterpillars. Here he does get surrounded himself though, so red team is answering Panda Killers, getting back onto the board and tightening it up a little bit.
Yeah, you know, those Sandstingers are not great to body block with in terms of their health pool, but they can get into position pretty fast.
They can do it if they need to. Yep. And I think a lot of this advantage right now is in the creeps. You see Takala stole a lot of the caterpillars from the other team. But also the red team, Panda Killers, hasn't quite taken their own... They have camps yet, so they're pulling back and clearing those.
There was the one that they just cleared. There's two more safe camps on the map. Those represent sort of this shard or this bioshard income we could get eventually. Or some energy that we can get eventually. You don't have to take it if possible.
Yes.
It's often better to take these more contested resources early.
On the other side, you do want to get those bioshards coming quickly because a lot of players right now are going for those quick tech rushes for that first Titan fight. You want to make sure you have your big units out, and as we see Jornar, he's getting out his two Bramblethorns right now.
Two coming.
And so if you delay those shards trying to contest, and your opponent's going for a more tier 1 heavy style, that can punish you quite a bit.
Definitely. I mean, and if that's the difference between 30 seconds on those Bramblethorns, getting them out in time for the Titan or not, that's a really big deal.
We see both Motiva and DQ going for Sandstinger heavy build. Motiva looking a little healthier here. He's rushing to tier 3, so he's going Sandstinger into heavy tech.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to head towards those bigger AoE damage as soon as possible again, like we saw the Alias do last time. But this early fight is built principally around these tier 1 Sandstingers.
Yep. And the Sandstingers are getting a lot of damage onto the Titans, but they are repositioning now. It's going to be a little tougher for him to get forward. We don't see Bramblethorns out yet, just one Bramblethorn from Jornar. Storm gets a nice root on, gets a lot of damage onto those Sandstingers. Bramblethorn's getting in position, and this should be a clean Titan.
Yeah, he got a nice root onto them, but there were still melee units from Takala standing in the way, still able to maintain positioning, so that Storm couldn't get a lot of damage to them. But a nice block on Jornar there with those Sandstingers. When they dash into position, it's really hard to predict where they're going to go and how they can surround you. Particularly when you don't expect that kind of surround from coming out from a Sandstinger. It's so fragile.
Right. Now this is an interesting play. So the theme sort of for the last two games has been to use this first Titan as a split push tool, but very differently. In this case, the medium camps aren't up.
This fight went a lot faster than the previous one, so there wasn't another objective to take quickly.
Except the towers that are up there, and so they're able to get tower with this Titan, a tower with their army down here, and now they're just backing off calmly.
And it can be difficult to manage that power aggro a little bit, but with the high health units like those Bramblethorns, you can do a little better. And people, I think, often underestimate how much value is tied up in those towers just in terms of raw sharding.
It's really a lot, for sure. And what could be interesting is if they get those towers, which they just did, and they translate that into an advantage before the medium camps come up, they can use that advantage and take the medium camps and bully them off. And so they might still be able to get the same advantage we saw in the last game, where you use the Titan as a split push threat to get the medium camps, but instead they're also getting a tower out of it, which is kind of
and
interesting.
they really didn't have to pay for it, and
They didn't.
that's what makes it great. I mean, being able to move to where your opponent isn't because you know they have to do something else
Yep.
is part of a good map movement play.
Yep, and so we see these high tier units coming out of blue. These shards that they got really paying off now. Got 2 Apocalypses and 2 Aquadillos. Red's gonna have to be very careful. DQME has a lot of single target damage, but he has to position really cautiously around these Aquadillos. If they get caught out of position, if he doesn't have one of his auras up at the time, he can get completely wiped by the Apocalypses and Aquadillos.
I mean, he does have a composition that sort of helps deal with that. The 2 dervishes definitely help get out of the way. You are dealing with unupgraded Aquadillos before they have the range increase your leap.
Yep.
On the other hand, I think it's a little early for him to have double dash yet. I don't know if he quite has it. But double dash is one of those things that when you're dealing with dual Aquadillos, gives you 1 dash to get out of the way of the first, 1 dash to get out of the way of the second, and really hope there isn't.
Right. And so Panda was sort of posturing here, but it looks like both teams are just going to take their safely. We are seeing the engineers coming out now for Panda Killers, getting some free guaranteed damage. They're answering that early Titan push and that split push just with the simple ion cannon, right?
And
it just costs a deck slot, basically.
This is one of the nice plays that you can do with an engineer in this pocket. When those medium camps come up, you can take the medium camp, and at the same time, you can defend your engineer.
Exactly. You're already protecting it with your army. So your opponent just really can't do anything about it except fully engage. But they're clearing their own medium camp, so you know it's safe. This engineer, solid snaking over here. Is he going to put down a cannon or just hiding? I think he's on cooldown right now.
That's an adventurous place to be.
I don't think Motiva is going to quite spot it. It'd be a little out of his way.
It'd be a little way to go out, and I don't think he's going to do it.
A nice little steal here by Storm, taking this forward camp. That'll give them a little bit of an extra bump of shards.
A little bit more shards, a little more energy.
Yep. Palms are sweaty for Jornar. Knees weak.
Well,
there you go. Thanks.
The 3-4 match here.
Yeah, we see an early lead for the blue team. DQB dashing in.
An aggressive dash.
Yeah, almost picks off Takawa. The Bramble Thorns.
They looked like they were in position.
Yeah.
But the nice Devilkin Dervish war dance, getting those units back safely.
Yep, and the Bramble Thorns aren't going to close the gap. They're there to threaten. That's what forced them to back off, and that's what protected Takawa, honestly, from losing his hero, potentially losing an Aquadillo, was the threat of these Bramble Thorns.
But you could see how fast that damage could come out.
Absolutely.
Sand Stingers. I mean, Takawa was half dead by the time he got there. Those took a little longer. Another attack reset. Takawa's hero is probably dead.
Yep. We're seeing some very quick posturing. What's going to be important now as this Titan spawns is how the red team uses their split push threat. How they have this engineer. They should be getting an engineer and a juggernaut soon out, hopefully. But you know, it is very tough to focus on all of these different elements, controlling your army, controlling your production, doing split pushes. The engineer goes down to build the ion cannon immediately.
And doing that while dodging things like the trebuchet.
It's very tricky. Very, very tricky.
And that is just cut off when for DQME.
What's interesting now, though, is that the red team has this heavy Sandsinger build. They're going to DPS this down a little faster. Blue has more of the classic Apocalypse, Ember Fiend, Zone Control, AoE. Oh, and a nice Icy Breath by Pen. Good engage. They're getting a lot of damage out, but an Icy Breath returns on the Storm.
Oh, but they already burned the Apocalypse hit. They didn't have the follow-up onto those units.
Motiva's still got 2 left. Uses 1 to pick off the seed.
That's a good hit on each of those, but nothing's dying.
Nothing really falling yet. These Sandsingers are still super healthy. That's what he's trying to get with those Apocalypse blasts right now.
That's
the tower does go down from the Ion Cannon. A nice split push threat. Another good freeze by Pan.
Icy Breath here.
Are they following up? They're following up pretty well. These dervishes and these Sandsingers getting a lot of damage out onto these tanks. Motiva, he just now gets the Destructive Prophecy, not landing on these Sandsingers. They're staying alive.
And using all of those Apocalypses early means that you don't have them.
Yeah, a good hit onto one of the dervishes. If you eat into this dervish count, that can spell disaster. Really eat into your mobility. And that's all that's protecting you against these Destructive Prophecies.
It's very much a glass cannon. You
Absolutely.
Really have to play very safe. Really know how much damage your enemy has out of it.
Oh, a nice root. There's that little bit of crowd control from Alder that we see coming into play.
Yeah, and you could see Jorna thought he was safe. He thought he could turn around and get out. And then the root hit him.
Oh, and a nice little Icy Breath follow
that's
up.
The combo.
That's exactly the combo.
That's the guaranteed damage. You know that it's going to land.
And DQ has slowly bled these Dancingers, it looks like he's not going to replenish with them. Those are just holdovers from the early game. He's going for replenishing his dervish count.
Well, he definitely wants to get that mobility back up first.
Yep.
High priority.
Now he's got an apocalypse of his own. Almost picks off one of Motiva's apocalypses, but not
That's a
quite.
very scary position.
That's really dangerous.
Awfully close to a lot
Yep.
of units.
You can see Panicler's red team really wants to get that final damage out, but they can't quite get in position. So Ice Frog is actually canceling and killing the other Ice Frog. Ice Frog. So sad.
But zoning everything off. You know,
Yep.
they push them off of here. They save that sliver of health by just keeping everyone away from it, and that secures them the Titan.
Barely secures Titan. It did heal up a fair amount of his health.
And you know, while all this has been happening, this engineer's ion cannon
Yep.
down here has been doing a lot
And
of
it's not
work.
going to kill this by itself. If it had a second engineer or a juggernaut there, they could actually take that warp spire out. No trouble.
And that is the problem with running these split push threats. You know, you get busy dealing with
It's
intense
very
fights
tough,
in the middle,
yeah.
trying to land abilities, and you forget about the engineer that you're supposed to be deploying the ion cannon with.
Of course.
You forget about that juggernaut that you needed to move into position.
Yeah. Oh, a nice
Very
destructive
juicy
prophecy.
one, but-
Another one lands back onto the Bramblethorns, getting them low, but they're able to heal them up. I don't think that this
Another
Titan
one
push is
comes
gonna do
out,
too much.
kills the Devil King Dervish. But you know, a lot of the stuff that got hit on Blue's team really didn't die.
Right.
They may need a little bit more upgrades to really make that work.
Yeah, if we look at the upgrade story right now, no one really got too much. Teams are opting for those really fast high-tech units and forgoing some of those upgrades. This engineer dodging the trebuchet blast. So this trebuchet is set up to try and counter this ion cannon. So the ion cannon goes down, you see it, you reposition the trebuchet to take it out. But he's being really sneaky with it right now. And this is at half health, and almost at half health, so another ion cannon or two could actually just finish this off, but a clean reposition on the trebuchet.
Looks like it's going to get taken out.
But up here, we do see posturing for the hard camp. Blue team is in position.
Ooh, this is a rough angle. Oh,
That's a
and
lot of damage onto the
great
Bramblethorns. A
setup.
good ult from Pant to keep them alive. Getting there himself, but he's
Can
got to
they
get these
live?
Bramblethorns out. They're healing back up. They're soaking up a lot of damage. One does go down. A good counter ult by Takawa keeping everything alive. They're just trying to
Ooh, and
kick
a
off
leap
these.
over on the Aquadillo.
Really good positioning.
Try to slow them down, but it's not quite enough. The slow doesn't last quite long enough to keep them in.
Yep, this is pretty dangerous for the red team. They have 3 Apocalypses right now, and this Dervish already used its aura, so be really careful with this. A single Destructive Prophecy could take all those out and really, really swing the game.
And that would be rough to lose all of those.
Yep.
There's not that much that you're going to fall back
Yep,
up with. You
and this
gotta take
whole
a long
time, I
to
mean,
rebuild.
blue team traded fairly well, and they had Jornar down here doing work with his Bramblethorns. He picked off the ground guy of the hard camp. This engineer went to heal, but gets picked
so
off by the
sad.
Bramblethorns.
I'm always sad when an engineer dies.
Yeah, I know. Looks like DKMU is thinking about trying to close in on these Bramblethorns, but while these Destructive Prophecies can get a lot of damage onto it, it is dangerous if he gets caught out of position.
Let's also take a look at DQME's upgrades. I saw something interesting in that panel before. He actually has attack upgrades. He doesn't have the ability power upgrades, but he seems to be transitioning into a style that uses ability power. He tries to use Apocalypse and not rebuilding some of those Sand Stingers. Looks like we may have a slight issue with the game coming. I'll just disconnect.
Yeah, I want to hop onto Discord to see what's going on. Meanwhile, while that's sorted out, I'll just pretend this game is still live.
It is the one.
It is still live. Kawabot taking over, clean control, telling his team to organize and take down this bottom hard camp. Really knows the importance of that shard income in the late game.
And communication. I think that's one of the things that's really
Exactly.
being highlighted.
He's
here.
using the contextual pings that players can't even access in our game right now. It does look like the red team has a good timer on their medium camp. They're able to burst it down really quickly. DQME using all of his Destructive Prophecy seems to be careful while those are on cooldown right now. The blue team could try to engage, but it looks like they're just opting to these easy caterpillars. They're posturing, trying to get in position for the next Titan fight. But DQME down here farming, getting some extra shards, might clear the rest of this hard camp. The Kawa bot really wants to clear that hard camp. He knows that he
knows
wants
the
more
importance of
shards.
those
Yeah,
resources on
he's
the map.
powering some defensive upgrades now that Takawa wasn't getting for him. So Takawa put the bot in a little bit of a tough bind. Unupgraded Aquadillos and Ice Frogs, they can go down pretty quickly. Just some destructive prophecies, but not with this magic resist.
I think that's one of the interesting things about DQME's build here is that he played the game with a lot of early Sandstingers, and it felt like that was working out pretty well against the Bramble Forms. But he's sort of transitioned into this more valid ability-based build, but he doesn't have the upgrades to back that up. Then again, if his teammates land freezes like that, it really doesn't matter. That is excellent.
Huge swing. Bramblethorn safeguarded here, just trying to hold on for the blue team. Getting a lot of work into DQME's army, but got to back off. Storm's Bramblethorn's nice and healthy. The Trebuchet getting some damage and some zone control onto this Titan. Takawa bot healing himself, keeping some of these Aquadillos alive, but they're going to fall unprotected. DQME's army. But Motiva is on the left, a little overextended. A nice Aquadillo into Icy Breath combo from Pant, popping his ult, getting a lot of damage down. He wants to clear the rest of Motiva's army. He can be coming in, also getting a lot of damage out. Pant's units are so hurt now that the ult has expired. The Kalabot goes in, picks off one Ice Frog, almost gets...
That's a bold play.
I know, almost gets it all, yeah.
You know, one more swing and I think that's what he died.
I think so. And Storm's Bramblethorns have been really big this game so far, using this Tree of Death, Deep-Root Terror, to protect them, zone out, while his Bramblethorns heal themselves.
And now that they've healed themselves up, they can engage again. They can start walking in the front, moving back when they get a little damage, up again. And that keeps Takawa, or excuse me, Jornar's Bramblethorns off the front. It keeps them away from them.
Exciting.
Sorry, our observer UI is...
Yep, and it looks like the red team is just barely going to clear the Titan. Their own was quite hurt, able to swing the fight at the last moment.
Yeah, so this push is definitely holdable. But they need to have the units to start bringing it down. You've got the 2 towers out, but you do need DPS time. And if the opposing team units occupied enough, you may just not make any damage there.
Yep. Kalabot is being a little aggressive, trying to 1v3. I mean, he knows he has perfect control and really good decision making, but sending forward without his teammates
not
and
always
losing.
The wisest judgment, no.
Not always, no.
No, he's buying time. That's what he's doing. He's
buying
trying
time
to bait people into these trebuchet shots.
He did give time for his team to get a lot of damage out onto this Titan. Now the Titan's getting pretty hurt. It's not going to go past his healing generator for sure. Yeah, I mean, might be able to take this out,
you
though.
do want to keep that healing generator up. Fighting in this region inside that healing zone is actually pretty comfortable. You feel like you can hold there safely. When that goes down, though, this region gets a lot scarier.
It does, and not to mention the shards that the team gets for killing it.
Oh, it's a shard pinata, man. It's great.
It is great. All right, so Titan push goes down. We need to regroup. We can see the income. Blue still has a bit of a lead over red. And now we're going to see how they position around. There's still one flying creep here that gives a little bit of resources, but safe medium camps are up. I think teams are just going to take this time to heal back up, rebuild their army.
I could see grabbing that hard camp and then heading back to the medium camp. Hiding in that heat zone while you take it. Taking some damage from the hard down. Soaking up the killing. I guess that's pretty strong.
Sludge coming out for Storm. Might see some of that sludge carrier micro. We've got the dropship coming out.
This could be great.
Could be pretty great.
Or it could die into it. Yeah. That is the risk of the transport-based sludge drop.
Exactly. It somehow managed to take the tankiest unit of the game and turn it into a glass cannon, effectively.
That's really one of its great victories.
And this Iron Cannon will take out the tower, still putting in a lot of pressure. Gotten a lot of value out of the engineer play so far.
Yeah, and while it would be nice to have you up at once and Juggernaut up, all pushing different angles, one by itself does still do work if you can defend harm's way.
Right. Storm really making good use of his Bramblethorns this game. He's kept most of them alive. He's done a good job of zoning with Alder to give them time to heal, using both his ultimate and his basic ability. He traded off a fair number of units there and didn't lose anything for it. So
yeah, and you know, his upgrades are now in motion, getting the next tier attack and defense. It's going to make those units even harder to bring down.
And those are really nice in the Bramblethorn, because the Bramblethorn, it makes their healing that much more effective. With the defensive upgrades, every point of HP healed is more effective HP once you have that magical resist.
Yeah, because I mean, it's going to take more and more to chew through. You're getting the same amount back from the heal, but each of those hit points means more.
Right, it's harder to take away.
And I do think there's something else that's nice about Storm Combo. The Bramblethorns take a lot of time to bring down, even if you're not paying super close attention. That gives him more time to focus on the micro of Sludge Drop, which he's going to have to carefully avoid losing it completely before dropping it.
Yeah, exactly. Doing a good job of controlling his Trebuchet as well, although I think the Trebuchet went down to the opponent's Trebuchet. Was trying to get forward to put a little bit more pressure, but a good response from Jornar.
It is one of the interesting things about Trebuchet plays is that they sort of take this nuclear war-esque problem where
Cold War,
you can lay down your Trebuchet, but if your opponent has a Trebuchet up, then it's easy pickings.
Right. So you have to keep them out of range of each other. If one gets in range of the other and sieges up, that can be it.
Yeah, you just step slightly to the side and do yours, and then by the time he can unsiege, it's probably dead.
Yep.
So now that they cleared out the Warp Spire and have pulled the enemy out of position, they can deal with this healing generator down here.
Yeah. So we're seeing some interesting plays out of Takawa Bot. One of our engineers, Abdi, who programmed most of the AI in our game, we give him a lot of crap because the bots are actually shockingly good. They end up beating a lot of really good players, but as you can see, making some odd decisions in this game, maybe not quite being as effective as Takawa would have been, I would say.
I think that's fairly accurate.
It's probably pretty accurate.
I mean, Abdi has made some great AI.
But we're seeing a really bold play. Blue team is deciding that they just want to try and end it now. They think that
there's the transport though. Here they come.
Oh my gosh. The sludge drops right on top of the army. I don't know if they're going to be able to stay alive long enough to finish it with these tank units.
There's enough damage here.
They are doing some work, and these Bramblethorns are still really healthy. Motiva getting a nice ult on some of the units and onto the archive, but this might just barely not enough.
It was a bold play, and you know, it almost worked.
It did almost work.
But successfully cleaned up. Great draw. The sludges on top of that entire round.
Right.
You see the GG's coming out.
And if the Kalabot were there with his teammates and had his ult up, that would have certainly been enough to end the game. They were right in sensing that the red team was a little bit out of position. The archive can fall deceptively quickly against some of those high health, really high attack units.
Yeah.
They usually can't close the gap to do damage to more mobile units, but the archive's not going to move, and so just womp on it while you're tanking damage yourself.
Archive run away.
Now, we've seen towers move before, so an archive might be able to move. It depends. There was a while where bots could control buildings and move them, which is pretty fun. But that's really unfortunate for Snurp Heaven that Takawa disconnected, but they're good sports. They want the tournament to go on and play the game out.
But it is a shame. You never want to see it because someone disconnected. But
yeah, that's a shame. But they're all such great sports. It's a very good, positive community, and there will be more tournaments.
And I don't think that takes away from what the other team was doing either.
Right.
I think they played a very successful game, and it was pretty balanced when he got disconnected. So
right.
That's a tough break, but well done on Panda Killers, and they'll make it to the next round.
Yep. All right, so do we have the next match lining up? Team Teddy versus Panda Killers, the lower bracket finals. Teams fighting to get a chance to get into the grand finals against Snurp Inferno. Excellent. Let's take a look at the post-game screen here. Break down the game a little bit. See what happened. Yeah, I mean, again, we saw Snurp Heaven kind of get off to an early lead, using really quick build to get out those Apocalypses and those Dervishes from Motiva. They were just a little crisper on their timings. They were able to get an early economic lead from some good Caterpillar snipes from Takawa. Got a couple quick hero kills as well. And they were able to translate that into a really strong first Titan fight, and I think that's where they kind of got their advantage.
Yeah, I mean, those early Bramblethorns really swing one of the and try to start attacking it. The longer you're unopposed, or you don't have
Yes.
more damage you can get done, and that just swing that very first very quickly.
Absolutely. We did see that Pentakillers was able to answer a little bit with the Iron Cannon of their own. They had fully materialized their Iron Cannon and their Juggernaut play. We'd have seen even more pressure. I think it's a very interesting style, but it's very tough to execute because all of your units are very fragile, especially as red. If you get caught out of position, even with Bramblethorns or some of the tankier blue units, Aquadilla's Ice Frogs, they can get picked off because the other team has a lot of crowd control, a lot of zone control, a lot of really quick burst damage. So it can be very tough and tricky to manage all of these different aspects on the map while still controlling your main army.
Yeah, I think that is what makes it a little bit easier with squads like Green. See that Storm built both of the engineers in that game.
Yep.
When you have those high health units that can survive well, it's a little easier to look away from your units a little bit and not think they die.
Yeah.
You have a bunch of Sand Stingers, sometimes it can be a little dicey, or a bunch of Apocalypses and Devil Dervishes that all die. Apocalypse hit can make you very, very tense about looking away from your little babies. But, a little easier with a lot of Bramblethorn in play.
Yes, absolutely. Really, everyone played quite fantastically. It was an interesting game. It's a shame that there was a disconnect, but it happens.
Yep.
Saw Storm get a lot of value out of his Bramblethorns. We saw...
Well, and keep them alive a long time. I think that's a significant part of that value. It's not just the kills that they're not having.
Yeah.
It's keeping them alive, soaking a bunch of damage.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's protecting them quite nicely with Alder. As we said, a lot of people will run Grath to get Safeguard, to protect the Bramblethorns, heal them up a little bit, but Storm actually showing that you can use Alder similarly, just to provide some zone control, lock things down for the Bramblethorns to get out damage, and to allow them to back off and heal, which is an interesting stylistic choice. And seeing his Sludge transition too, excited to see if he tries it again.
Yeah, I'm only sad that we only got to see the Sludge drop at the very end of the game.
That's right, yeah.
All right, I think we're going to need to take just a quick break while we set the other up. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
All right, right back.
Thanks, guys. Hello, everyone. We're back, continuing the climb up the lower bracket.
Welcome back. So we're about to hop into the lower bracket finals. Load up this replay. Usually we test this before going live, but we've both just realized that we didn't.
Oops.
I think it's gonna be fine.
It's going to be great.
It'll be great. We're fine. Everything is fine.
It's worked like most of the times in the past.
It has.
Choose your hero.
That is a good sound to hear. Cool, so let's hop into the deck picker. So we've got Team Teddy that we saw in the winner bracket finals against the Panda Killers that we just saw in the last match we watched.
Yep. And by winning the last match, they've started to ascend back up through the lower bracket, and they may be able to make it back into the grand finals.
They can climb, yeah. They had a very interesting style, a little bit different from what we've seen for the most part. We'll see if they decide to run with it again. We'll also see if Team Teddy is running a similar composition to what they did last time. It looks like, again, we are seeing the Warp Drone come out, first pick for them. And Bombs, again, running Grath, running really heavy tank, getting a Trebuchet in there, getting some value out of that, getting that nice zone control and that high HP pool.
Yep. I mean, if you're going to drop in with it, might as well do it heavy and healthy.
That's right. So, Panda Killers getting a Hydros and an Alder again, sticking with that style. Storm likes it.
You know, it seemed to work out pretty well. That root ability of Alder's very potent. Keep back and got well from that.
Yep, and we're seeing the same picks out from Panda Killers. I don't think we're going to see too many deviations or mind games in best of one series this early in the bracket. We might see some in the finals. People might change up their compositions. But Storm, again, getting that Engineer, getting that Carrier to use with his Sludge. Panda getting the Juggernaut again. They're looking to apply that split pressure behind all the zone control in middle.
I really do want to see that Juggernaut come out this game. Really didn't play a factor last. Applied together, all three of them.
Oh yeah, that is a lot of split push.
Really put on something.
Yeah, and you can force a team to basically deviate from the Titan fight or take as much damage as a Titan would do until those really late game Titans that are just going to end the game outright. The pressure of a Juggernaut and a couple Engineers can do oftentimes more damage than an early Titan.
And as we saw before, Teddy's team grabbing the Warp Drones all around.
All around. 3 Warp Drones, yeah.
Ready for that very strong backdoor play.
Getting a Sentinel, mix it in, good. He's got a Shadow as well, so that's going to force the other team to make sure they have Sentinels out, especially for that first Titan fight. Really, for the whole game, you never want to get caught by a Shadow. It's always a threat. It can catch your army, slow it down long enough to land some of those huge AoE follow-ups, some of the Apocalypse, Destructive Prophecies, landing with an Aqua, Dillo.
And if there's a lot of units there, like once you get one of those, you're going to get more.
Chain,
you can get the Aqua Dillo, you can get the Ice Frog, and just boom, 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 line those up.
I think very similar picks from DQME. All Bloodier, again running the Vex instead of the Eris, which gives you a little bit more poke AoE damage early game, and the Spitfires and Vex, because of how Ignite works, how when Vex hits something with his basic ability, his tier 1 units do bonus damage to it. You're sacrificing some mobility that the Sandsingers have. They can dash around, but they actually can get more sustained damage onto those early Bramble Thorns, potentially.
Total damage, they have a little bit more.
You just have to be a little more careful because you don't have that dash.
They do have a little bit bigger health pool.
Yep.
They're a little more resilient to just beefier, that little chip damage.
Right. But the Destructive Prophecy will melt all of them. So Sandsingers can pack a little tighter, so you can probably kill more Sandsingers in one blast, but
you can also dash out of the way.
Yeah, exactly. So DKME also, again, picking up that Engineer, picking up another Sentinel. I think pretty similar compositions out of both teams from what they ran in the previous games we watched. We'll see if they continue to execute the same way.
And many of these teams, I think, did practice a variety of compositions and settle on one composition that they're very comfortable.
Right.
Obviously, the teams didn't have a lot of time to practice different things.
Right.
So they probably wanted to practice one thing and make sure that.
Exactly.
We are now all confirmed. Just loading up the match now.
And somehow DQME and Amelia, our tournament organizers, both ended up in the top 3. It seems a little convenient. They didn't do the seedings themselves, so that
our
It was not on them. We helped them with the
3,
seeding.
2, 1.
But all right, let's go ahead and see how these teams decide to open. Are we going to see some invades? Are they going to play a little safer and just get those guaranteed shards like I was talking about, just to get the build started a little earlier? The invade can get you extra shards, right? You can steal some from your opponent, but you are potentially delaying your build.
So I think one thing that we're seeing them do on the bottom side there is pull those back more. And Tedster is not. He's leaving them down in this pit as he starts to engage them, and that really leaves you susceptible to things like this.
Yep.
You just get shoved off.
Wow, some nice control from Pand. Really boxing out Tedster, getting some good steals here.
You know, he tries to flank in here. Oh, and his team's coming. That's why. This is a great super round.
Yeah, DKME losing some of those critical early Sand Stingers.
So maybe this was bait.
It is, but Storm following up now. Everyone is getting into the fight now.
He's gotten into a bloody early game once again.
Yeah, looks like another ARAM.
You know, and they're going to have to be really careful about those caterpillars.
Yeah, they'll stun. Yeah.
In the middle of a big team fight like that, you forget about them, and then they stun half of your stuff.
Right. It looks like Red Pan did manage to steal one of those caterpillars, but they lost, I think, a little bit more in terms of beginning army units, but they're able to replenish that pretty
by
early.
and large, not a huge
thing. No. Both teams sort of back off, and now they're looking to just gather those critical resources.
We've got the blue team stepping out onto the map. They're a little quicker on the bottom side, getting some of the critters there. Would have liked to see them start to drag those back, fighting them in place.
Yep.
And that has to make you really work
Yep.
the roots like that that alter.
This looks like a bit of a late tech 2 from Storm. That might actually end up delaying his early Bramblethorns. Let's see if Bombs' Bramblethorns are coming out. Not quite yet. He wants to get those started ASAP. Does he have tech level 2 yet? He does. He wants to make sure to get those started. He's starting one right now. You want those out as soon as you can for that first fight.
You know, and like we saw earlier, that is one of the issues with trying to test into those steel plays.
Right.
That you're not on the map getting
exactly
grabbing the camps that are easy and safe for you.
You have to wait for those extra generators to pop, pretty much. And you have to have just the awareness to get those timings crisp while you're microing in the early game fights. DKME does get his Sandstinger count back up. Tetzer with a nice little poke and steal.
Nice little push off there.
Yep. But now, yeah, these camps that you usually take very quickly on your own, they're taking a little bit later because they were so heavily contested early game.
I mean, on the one hand, you don't need the energy that those camps give. You can afford to delay that a little bit.
Yeah.
But they do give you guaranteed bioshards. The play is to try to tech very quickly. Need those bioshards as soon as possible.
And these are the only shard units we see out on the map right now. Bloodier's 2 dervishes at the moment. So they have a bit of an advantage right now. See if they can press it.
And you know, if I had to pick a couple of units, those actually are a really good camp.
Absolutely.
By themselves, they do fairly good damage, move around very effectively, but they make all of the rest of the value.
And now you have this Shadow coming out for Tetzer. That could get a lot of value on DQME. He's really far
juicy.
Forward. He gets a good chunk of them. Can they follow up? No, a nice dash out by DQME. Able to keep most of them alive.
Oh, and you know, that's, you know, I can see that Bloody's hero isn't here. That's really where you would want to follow up with a Scorch from Vex or something. You know that those Sandstingers can't be found anymore.
Right.
Just start to burn them down. No follow-up.
And this Bramblethorn is out a little earlier for Bombs than it is for Storm. That's pretty big too. Gets a huge swing on a DQME.
Oh. See, that's the issue. Before you have double dash, you have to be so careful in your choices there. And he pays for it in a big way.
That's actually pretty big. Bob's getting a lot of value out of this quick Bramblethorn. Storm able to walk away.
And the Shadow. I mean, the Shadow there earlier, getting the green slow on all of those Sandstingers, and here zoning off those seeds, and letting that Bramblethorn engage, letting it press up against the wall and get a good hit in. Excellent play.
Nice little split farm from Woodier. Getting some extra shards. That'll help him tech up a little faster, get that quick tech 3. That'll give him just the additional shards he needs to really get out another
slow. And you know, the movement speed differential is generated here between the Shadow and those Delicate Dervishes, able to boost some into position. You can really just go from somewhere else completely to right on top of something.
Right, the Dervishes give a lot of nice chase power. Shadow really getting value for Tetzer. Panicillers really needs to get out that Sentinel pick that they had to reveal with this, or upgrade some of their rewards potentially.
This could be very dangerous. The Shadow caught out of position. It looked like he was about to get rid of 2 of those Devil King Dervishes, but their blows a little earlier. Or thinks it's about to maybe doesn't get much value.
Yep.
But keeps it alive with the good heal. So one thing that has happened is during this Titan fight, I think the timing on the engineer here has been a little more crisp. We've got this engineer here that's been firing.
This is actually, an engineer for Team Teddy, actually. They're going to get a lot of damage. They've got a Titan up here they have to respond to. They're doing this split push with the Bramblethorns tanking. Red Team's choosing to respond to this in particular, so this Titan's going to get a little more work. This Ion Cannon just took out 1 tower. Can't quite reach this other. A little bit of a misposition. This Titan will get at least 1 tower. Might not be able to get 2 because Dikomi has a lot of sustained damage right now with these 4 dervishes. Looking pretty good.
The combination of those dervishes, which do plenty of damage on their own, and put out a lot of damage.
Yep.
Sandstingers have a long attack, but that gets reduced quickly.
So blue is actually taking this time to kind of steal this red camp a little bit. Red is going to try and respond in kind to take blue, so they're sort of reverse stealing.
A nice trade is as long as nobody gets caught. One of these teams gets out of position, gets stuck there and body block.
And that was a really, really quick response by Red. They realized their camp was getting stolen, and they responded immediately to steal back. That could have gone very poorly for them, but
yeah, you never want to give up both of them to the other team.
Right.
It always feels bad. You look at the map and you go, oh, it's already gone.
Yep.
It means that they got an objective, you got nothing. You got a big swing of
and so you see here, in terms of creeps, they're actually dead even. A lot of the advantage that blue has right now is from the enemy kills, or the structures they've killed, the heroes, and the critters. That split farming from Lodier, getting a lot of extra value for them.
Yeah, and it's hard to see like 2 units. Okay, how fast do they really at Caterpillar? But it adds up.
It does add up. You can see it pop the shield. Yep.
Boom, want to send
a lot of
just
damage.
Enough to do that, and just keep them down.
And this is nothing to scoff at. That's an extra Apocalypse or 2. And that can really, honestly, mean the game at a 2nd Titan fight or a 3rd Titan fight. We're seeing everyone back off and take their safe medium camps. Let's see how they decide to group now. They've got a lot of time left before the next Titan fight. See if anyone makes a little bit of a play for some of these extra critter resources. If they start taking some of these easy camps here.
Well, we got some good Apocalypse hits, but not enough damage to really kill those big tank.
Right. Almost gets a steal onto the critter. Player backing off. Quickly rotating up here. We've got a little bit of a fight breaking up. They've caught all of Storm's Bramblethorns. A great surround from bombs. Decimi trying to respond in kind, but Bloodyear is actually blowing him off. A nice series of cascading flanks here from all of the teams.
And that's a spectacular set of engagements.
That is.
Get the freeze. Not only get the freeze, but get the great
falling up immediately, yeah. That was really,
units.
really good play from bombs and Tedster.
The Bramblethorn alive.
Oh, and a huge blast right out of hand.
This game just took a huge turn.
Absolutely. These Aquadillas are able to get out for Pant. That is really nice for them. Doesn't have to rebuild all of those, but the 3 Bramblethorns going down for Storm is going to be pretty tough. We can see that he's rebuilding 1 right now, and he's getting the upgrade for it, but it's going to take him a long time to get enough shards to rebuild all 3. He might not have them up for this next Titan fight, which is going to hurt.
Yeah, it's going to be really bad. When you have your opponent who has 3 Bramblethorns out, has been handling them really well, and suddenly your own front line is now gone. That's just a hard situation to deal with.
And Bombs wisely, not going to try and risk getting more out of that play. He's just coming back and healing, taking the guaranteed damage that they did.
No, and that is the mark of a good player, is knowing, okay, I got enough out of this, knowing when you should back off, not overextending, not being too aggressive.
You want to press your advantage as much as you can, and sometimes that means just pulling back and getting health
further.
back. Yeah.
It's easy to overextend.
Yep, and the Shadow again, really, really providing a lot of good vision for Tedster, and without the Sentinels on the board, actually being quite a bit of a threat and catching a lot of Yukimi's units, but I don't know if they can follow up in time. Getting a lot of damage on a lot of slow. Aquadillas are jumping in right now in a nice icy breath and a ton of destructive prophecies. Everything going down right now except for Pan's 3 Aquadillas. And that is going to hurt.
I'm impressed that he got those out. It was quick thinking to dodge backwards, but that was a huge swing even so.
And like I said, the The Sentinel coming out just a little bit too late. The Shadow is so potent if you don't have the detection up. And really, as you see, swing the game. I mean, a lot of people look at our Shadow, the Shadow, and they compare it to like a Dark Templar, and they're like, oh, it doesn't do that much damage. It's not as much of like a solo threat as something like a Dark Templar, but as you can see,
you can swing it really fast. The keys, you have to have other units.
He's got to follow up. Yeah, it's not the thing that's going to sit in the corner of the map and one-shot a hero because you don't have detection, but it is the thing that can swing the game for you very quickly. As you see Blue able to take this win really quickly. A surrender coming out from Panda Killers.
Yes, GG's all around. That was a decisive win by Team Teddy, rather.
Team Teddy, yeah.
Team Teddy.
Absolutely.
But where exactly do you think the game swung there? Was it that last big hit that really did it? Do you think the game was even before that?
I think the first Titan fight went fairly well into Team Teddy's advantage, and they were able to translate that into some nice pressure. They had a Titan push. They had a little split push with their Bramble Thorns. They had the Iron Cannon up. They got a bit of an advantage off that, but Team Panda Killers responded pretty well, and they responded really well by counter-stealing the medium camp to stop the bleeding.
It was a really good split.
It was a really good split second really decision, yeah.
Yeah.
But they stopped the bleeding there, and I think things would have been in a pretty good spot for the second Titan fight, except when Headster and Bombs had a really good catch on Storm's Bramble Thorns.
Yeah.
That's what really took the game.
I think that was
that was huge.
I mean, the last team fight certainly ended the game.
Yes.
But before that, I think that play really locked.
That gave them a huge advantage, and I would say, honestly, probably guaranteed them the second Titan, I would say. And that's...
There's not enough bioshards in the army for the other team.
And it's a tough call to make that, to say as a team, okay, we're just not going to contest the second Titan, because even being out there can be dangerous. You can bleed more units because they have a bigger army. And maybe looking at it and saying, okay, you know, we just need to sit back, or maybe we do some split pressure as long as we have good vision. But I think extending into that second Titan fight and not having the detection for that Shadow, that really put the nail in the coffin.
Yeah. I mean, it is always a hard decision. They know we can't go for the Titan right now.
It is. That's a very tough one to do.
It takes a lot of discipline to say.
Yeah, the game yells at you.
But at the same time, if you don't do anything, that Titan gets more powerful effectively because you haven't DPS'd down.
Yep.
And you haven't sort of kick-started the process of killing it.
And it gives the other team a lot of optionality too. They can decide to wait on that Titan if they want. If they say, okay, you know, we'll let you build up a little bit, but we're going to time this Titan so the hard camps are up. Or we're going to just attack you with these Titans sitting here because we think we can back off. There's a lot of optionality and a lot of control that you're giving up just by sitting back in your base.
Tedster's team on the first play sent the Titan one way, had an Iron Cannon on another lane,
and their army
took a tower on the other.
I mean, I have to say that Panda Killers defended that really well. They only lost 2 towers, I think, off that.
It was 2 towers.
Let's actually see. We can actually. We have the tools for this.
We have the magic.
Let's find out. Maybe. Here we go. Yeah, let's sort of see. I have no friends. How embarrassing. Xcal stream, no friends. So the Titan goes down, and yeah, they just get 2 towers off of it, and that's really good defense from Panda Killers. I was really impressed with that, and I was impressed with how they took that medium camp as well. It was just that catch, and then extending out into that Titan fight without detection was pretty tough. Tough.
I think when you've gotten caught by that a couple times, you got to start building. You got to start getting.
It's exactly like detection in other games. Like, it's something you'll get burned by. Thank you. I'm already getting friend requests. That's so important to me. That's really nice. And I'm completely distracted. I was just so excited. Friends on the internet.
Detection, Bobby.
Detection is important, and friends on the internet are important.
They are.
Yeah.
Friends in general are important.
Yeah. Okay, but yeah, it's just like detection in other games where you're gonna get bit by it a few times. Like, those cloaked units will show up and they'll slaughter you in a couple games, and I'm like, oh, that's stupid.
Well, and it's learning that response, which is, oh, I saw a cloaked unit. I need to build this, or I'm gonna get bit again.
Yeah.
Versus, oh, I saw a cloaked unit. It's probably fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's easy to say, oh, I killed that one, and sort of neglect the continued threat of it.
That's exactly
and
right.
see the plays through your opponent's eyes, essentially. Say, oh,
Right.
if he had one here, it'd be really good. I better make sure he doesn't.
That is correct. Yeah.
I think we're going to take a very quick break while we get the next game set up.
Yeah.
I think people are pretty much ready to go, but we need to cover. So give us just a minute, and we'll be back.
And we'll hop into the grand finals.
Grand
between
finals.
Team Teddy and Snurp Inferno. So stay tuned.
All right. See you soon.
Choose your hero.
Hey.
Welcome back, everyone.
Yep. We're about to hop into the grand finals. A rematch between Team Snurp Inferno and Team Teddy, coming from the lower bracket.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and hop into the deck picker. So this is now a best of 3.
So the first team, the sort of top of the bracket picks first. The very standard thing that we've done throughout the entire tournament.
Yep.
The next round, swap sides.
Yep.
The other team will have a pick.
Yep.
And then if we go to an ace match, it's going to be blind pick.
Blind pick in the third game of a best of 3. And if Team Snurp Inferno, Nib, Jagalius, and Milia can close that out in the first best of 3, that will be the tournament. They'll be first place. But if Team Teddy can pull it back, then we'll go to a bracket reset and have another best of 3.
Yeah, they've done a good job climbing out of the lower bracket so far.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see if they can pull it back here in this best of 3 and get us another few games.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and hop into the picks and kind of go back over what happened the last time they met. Because I think these picks are probably going to look pretty standard for game 1. We see Jagalius again going what he's run the whole time.
No surprises
yet. So the last time they played, they had that really extended Titan fight for the first Titan, and it dragged out for a long time. We saw crazy high-tier armies. Jagalius had 3 Apocalypses out. We saw an Ice Frog. We saw Bramble Thorns.
Very early Ice Frog.
A very early Ice Frog. Incredibly crisp timing by Tedster to get that out so quickly. And because the Titan took so long, by the time it was pushing, the medium camps were up. And
it was at like 7 minutes or so.
It was at, after 7 minutes, I think, was when that resolved, actually. Yeah. And Snurp Inferno was able to wisely turn that into 2 medium camps. And so that's something that Team Teddy will have to look out for, is they want to make sure they don't get caught in that situation again. Like we saw Panda Killers in the last game, they wisely detected that their medium camp was being stolen, and they were able
that and immediately
decide for it. You got to be very decisive. You got to pull that camp away from the rotation path. And now we see the picks from Bombs and Bloodier. We see a classic Warp Drone, Bloodier running the same composition. I think Bombs is going to probably end up with the same composition again, although
looking very similar.
Maybe no Warp Drone for him. This would be... Nope, there we go. There we go. Tricky. We see Bloodier with an Engineer. Jagalius also with an Engineer as well.
Mm-hmm.
More...
I think a little bit of extra threat there.
Yeah. Potentially more Engineer play this game. Engineers are just really good at mitigating damage from other split push threats or from the Titan itself, because they can heal structures and buff them up a little bit. And also, again, applying a lot of pressure on their own just by building Iron Cannon.
And again, no surprises on other Hydros. Very beefy.
We see the Shadow coming out from Nib. And Sentinels. 2 Sentinels on that side. They just want to make sure they have good map vision. They want to make sure that they aren't getting surprised by Shadows.
And that was, I think, a hallmark of the...
That was very much. They had really good
all over the map for both.
Absolutely. And we saw a lot of... attempted Sentinel snipes. We saw some destructive prophecies going down to try and pick off Sentinels.
That was wonderful.
That was wonderful. And Tedster really kind of forced to pick the Sentinel. I think he probably was going to anyways, but they need a Sentinel. At least one Sentinel pick to try and deal with the other team's Sentinels and their Shadows. Give themselves a little bit of a foothold. That vision can give you the information you need to make those decisive calls. To say, okay, I can see that they're taking our medium camp, or they just cleared our Sentinel there. We need to go take theirs immediately.
Having more information about what's happening on the map always lets you make better decisions.
And I will put my headphones on. More information is better. Sound is important when you're spectating. I can hear the timings, the callouts, the Titan announcements. I know. I'll try to relay them to you.
I'll try to remember.
Welcome to Arctor.
Alright, here we go. Let's see how they open up again. Again, what we've been looking at is how aggressive these teams start. Do they try to invade? Do they farm a little more safely to get those timings out faster? To get that really quick Tech 2, Tech 3?
Yeah, starting with the immediate pull.
Yep.
How cute.
Trying to get here as quickly as possible. They're playing really defensive around this, sending 2 people here to clear this. Again, this is a defensive play. They could spread out. Looks like Milia is going to split farm a little bit, but he's positioned very well here to deny.
Yeah. An early ward in and Milia standing there.
We've got a Remake coming in. Tetzer is bugged. This is an open alpha, as some of you might know,
Such things
realized. I know it looks so polished and perfect. You can't believe it's an open alpha.
That's just our wonderful art team.
Exactly, they're
All of their hard
fantastic.
work.
They are fantastic. Any bad art you see in the game is probably my fault. I do some placeholder art. If it looks really bad, you can blame me. If it looks good, it was all them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's generally true.
That is generally true. Okay, so it's like we're going to get a regame. Harrison's going to keep tabs on that. As I am on my stream account, I don't have any of the really exciting admin privileges. But I do have 3 friends now, which is nice. I don't feel lonely on my stream account anymore. No empty friends list. I think we'll probably just blitz through the pick phase again, because they've already made their picks. We should probably verify that they picked the same things. I think that's going to be fine.
I will.
Looks like the game is coming up. So we're going to go and hop in and spectate that. Let that load up real quick.
Choose your hero.
They'll choose my hero. Cool. Switch that scene. And, yes, this all looks the same. That Bloody is still picking his stuff. Switched? Yep.
Yeah, we've caught back up.
Great. And we might have to pause at the beginning of this game to make sure there's a bit of a delay. We're usually a little bit behind live. Want to make sure there are no stream cheaters. This is a very serious tournament.
Yeah. We try to have a couple minutes that we interject just to make sure that we're streaming slightly behind live.
But we don't delay the stream itself because we want to be able to interact with you guys. When I say I need friends on my stream account, you can friend me in the next 20 seconds, not 2 or 3 minutes later. Makes me feel good. But remind me, it's about to start. We need to pause.
I'll do my best.
Great.
Buddy.
I'll probably
I
forget.
make no promises.
Now we get a rare chance to see if they open the exact same way, if they position the same way, if they change their opening even a little bit, because, you know, if Milia knows they're not going to invade that, he could just go ahead and send those out a little earlier.
That's a pretty deep metagame.
It is. It is. And this is what you need to do to succeed at this high level
your
of
fighting
alpha
spirit,
play.
buddy.
Exactly. Oh, they already have 3 minutes in? Is that true?
Yeah, we're good.
All right, we're great.
1.
No cheating here.
It is time to
Let's see. Milia again. A quick dash off to the front. I think he's going to go to the same spot, and Niv
And
is
the
going
roll,
to.
a little bit different path on that.
A little different path. One clearly a little faster than the other.
Hasn't optimized.
Yep.
But
Milia is going a little faster this time, but he's leaving one here this time. We'll see. Same opening from Bombs and Bloody Ear. They're pulling this camp back, so if someone tries to invade, they're protected under their tower. We see Tetzer optimizing a little bit. He's not being nearly as safe as
I think
Niv and Milia were.
I mean, we've seen that play a number of times, and I think it's kind of greedy to take the camp there. We've seen a number of cases where that gets invaded on and hurt pretty badly.
He does have this vision there, and if he can get away with it, then it was the correct play.
Yep.
You have to assume that he's expecting not to get invaded, basically.
I mean, he certainly has the tools to get away, but not necessarily to keep killing the camp. A little further back toward that tower.
Nice little snipe by Bloody Ear. Staying behind bombs, he's got some extra range on these Spitfires and Scorch. Be able to shoot over bombs and pick off. Make sure they're not losing any critical early game income.
Scorch has been one of those just nice harassment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Gets a lot of nice AoE damage.
The cooldown isn't huge, and nice splash and nice burn.
Yep.
So if you can hit anything with it, it tends to help. On Gravy, if you get the extra damage from the Spitfires, but more than Gravy actually, it does a huge bump to their DPS. Especially
against a sustained target, something you're just constantly dishing out damage onto.
Yeah.
We do see a decent critter lead from the blue team, from Snurp Inferno. They played a little better in early lane, and that can translate into an extra high tier unit in that first fight, which can be pretty big. We'll see if they can use that advantage, turn it into a favorable fight for the first Titan.
I mean, and Alias is definitely rushing tech again, all of his Bioshock bottom. But if that means that he's headed towards tech and they have that early advantage from critters, that's just going to make that even faster.
God, he's got a lot of shards. He immediately throws down Tech 3, and he's getting 2 dervishes. Bloodier on the other side, getting his 2 dervishes, and getting that early engineer. They're looking to put on some split pressure for the first fight, which means he doesn't quite have enough shards to get that Tech level 3 right now. So we're seeing a bit of a divergence already. Bomb's getting his quick Bramblethorn.
No surprises there.
Oh, and Tetzer's getting a little bit caught here. A good surround by Milia. Tetzer might go down. He heals himself.
Second safeguard.
A nice safeguard by Milia, and they do pick off Tetzer. That gives them, again, a little bit more of a resource advantage, and they can turn that into extra units for this first fight. That can be big for them.
And they can push these units off, make them take the long way around, get them further away from that middle area,
and this
further
is
away
right,
from healing.
Right before the Titan spawn. So Tetzer's hero's not up right now. That's a lot of healing and damage and front line that they're missing right now, so they're going to have to be a little careful. Nib is boxing out, denying a lot of this damage. So his team...
He's very much on zoning duty right now. He does not have enough units to kill a whole lot.
Jigalius dashing and almost picking off a dervish, but great reactions by Bloodier. Blue has total control of this.
Gets all of them away. Makes all of them back.
Exactly. They have total control of this right now. Now the question is, are they going to just go and finish it, or are they going to delay it again?
Very bold move up there, going very close to that ramp. Was to danger when there was a ramp right behind him. They have no vision on.
And look at this. They're just letting this sit again. It's at 1 HP. Jigalius finishes it off. I guess they decided this is so early that they don't want to wait around too long to let the other team remax. But it looks like they're using it as a split push again. Jigalius wants to split off. He's taking a lot of AoE damage, so he might be freeing up supply, actually.
He's sacrificing his units. Now that he's gotten his tech level 3 out and he has that pool of bioshards, he wants to switch those high tech. Doesn't want to stay on the singers.
Right.
I think he maybe could have gotten a little more value out of them. Found a way to sacrifice them that was a little more efficient, killing something else, forcing them to trade for them. But if you want supply quickly.
Wow, they're getting a lot out of this first Titan. They got a Warp Spire, 3 outer towers. They might get another one. Jigalius freed up some supply. He's getting his Apocalypse out. That's a pretty big advantage right now. So Team Teddy is going to have to figure out how they can safely get some shards to get back into this game. If they can farm up safely, maybe not bleed, maybe not lose both of their, or lose both middle medium camps, they might be able to stabilize.
I think that's going to be the next big contest here. Who gets those needs? If Blue can successfully take both of them. They look like they're posed to it.
Can they get anything out of the shadow?
I don't think there's a follow-up to it.
They were able to take out most of Milia's troopers, but the shadow does go down. So not quite the best trade, gets a little bit out of it. And now, certainly, Nerve Inferno is going to be very careful about using this Sentinel. We do see the Ion Cannon getting some work, some return fire down, which is nice, and a little bit of split farming.
Yeah, and not a super quick response either. It may get that tower, which is, not a huge swing, but is the start of a comeback of some
And almost more importantly, it pulls Nerve Inferno in this direction, allowing Red Team time to set up here. This is going to be much harder for Nerve Inferno to actually invade on. They might just choose to take their own safely, which I think they're going to. Yeah.
I mean, if this means that they get a trade, Team Teddy gets a trade instead of taking a loss and getting 2 camps.
Interesting. Jigalius is going to try to snipe this using this critical vision, this amazing vision he has with the Sentinel.
Ooh, I think
Teddy is leashing it around. They know.
I think they know. They smell it.
They know. He's going to try to get it. Timing it. Can't they get it? A nice snipe by Jigalius, and doesn't lose anything to that return fire. That's huge. He can't pick these up right away, but that's denying a lot of resources for his opponent. And then, sensing that they're out of position, Milia and Nib are going to continue the pressure here.
I mean, they don't just need to sense it. They had the vision over there. They know what's going on.
Exactly.
They can show up with those Bramble Thorns.
Seeing is sensory. They sense. They sensed.
I stink.
That's right. Alright, so we see an engineer here probably going to put down another Ion Cannon, continue to put that split pressure. I like that he used it up at the north and he brought it down to the south while it's on cooldown, trying to keep his opponent guessing on where it's going to be.
Yeah.
He might wait until the next Titan to actually do anything because you want to maximize the pressure when the Titans are up.
makes it much harder to deal with quickly.
Yeah.
You can send a few of your units to deal with it. That'll take some time, but it gets the units
right. Ilya is pretty far forward on his own right now, but I don't think that there's enough engage potential. They're not quite. He's not too far out of position to lose these, like we saw in the last game where the Bramblethorns got caught.
I mean, one Aquadillo is pretty good engaged, but you really want more than one in an Ice Brawl to follow that.
And what's really nice is this vision control they have.
Yeah.
These Sentinels, they can see where most of red is on the map right now.
Once you control those key points, you really have a lot of air people.
Yeah,
and so you can't always see them directly, but you know sort of the pathways, the hallways that people use.
Right, and that's why he can extend a little forward to press his advantage. But I will say that Team Teddy has done a good job of stabilizing. They are down in income because they had such a huge beating from that first Titan fight that Sniper Inferno was able to get a lot of value out of, take down 3 outer towers and a Warp Spire. But they didn't lose beyond that. I mean, they traded medium camps except for the snipe from Jagalius, which is really nice, but they plausibly have a chance in this fight right now, depending on control, right? A good Destructive Prophecy can swing it for sure. Jagalius poking forward, has some Ember Fiends to zone a little bit, but
I think the key is what these Aquadillos are going to do. That's the big advantage that Team has right now.
Sea Waves are really pressuring them, stopping right now, and it looks like Nib's going to engage. Some nice follow-ups. They get one of the Bramblethorns, but a great counter-engage and some nice return fire from Bloodier. We see an ult go down for Nib. They're just diving in, keeping all of these tanks alive for a little longer.
And that's going to let you destroy all the high-value targets, at least most. Kept the Ice Frog alive, which I think is vital. That's one of the big tools that they have for getting combos like that.
Ooh, a nice freeze by Tedster. Can they finish him off?
Need to get those back into the
keeping both of his Apocalypse barely alive because there are no upgrades out for Jacalius yet. It was good they stabilized a little bit. We've got a Sludge coming out for bombs.
Oh, but you know, while all of this is happening, the blue team has some units back on the Titan.
That's right.
Slowly whittling it down.
Yeah. They don't have much of a lead on it right now. See this Trebuchet shambling a little too far forward, potentially.
It's an intrepid Trebuchet.
Yeah. Very bold. But I think they are going to secure the second Titan, and that trade could have gone worse for them, certainly. But it was still pretty punishing. It was wise on Sniper Inferno's part to actually press that advantage there. Nib was smart to engage like that, and his team followed up very quickly.
Well, and knowing you have the high fall back on. So,
right.
Oh, we can push far forward here. We have this button. Let us sit under these towers for a while. Let us be engaged and then kill all the units.
Some nice zoning by bombs here with this Sludge and his Safeguard, but it's going to fall pretty quickly. That's a lot of damage that they're going to put out. And a nice engagement from Nib onto Bloodier.
Nice engagement on both sides. We got the
really nice,
and Ice Frog combo landing on.
Jagalius actually loses all of his Apocalypse. Tedster does a great job there, and Bloodier keeps his Apocalypse alive. That's a really good trade for Team Teddy. And this Titan hasn't done much work yet. It will probably take down this Warp Spire. Ilya still has all of his Bramblethorns alive, doing a great job. Bomb still has one of his alive, keeping safeguard. Good safeguard from both teams here.
Yeah, and that's what I meant when I said that the Ice Frogs were one of the ways that they could get back here. That they were vital for this potential comeback.
Ability, yep.
Is that when you can land something like that, you can get that combo off and kill a bunch of these.
Yep. That's right. And this Titan is going pretty unchecked. It will actually manage to get this healing generator, I think, as well. Pretty big. But these Bramblethorns might have overextended a little bit. One goes down, the other one is going to go down for sure. Can they actually chase and get a third? Bombs pops his ult to slow it, which is huge, and they're going to chain that into a Frost. That's amazing.
That's a wonderful combo.
Really good. They're going to
good communication there.
Really good. That was a very valuable ult from Bombs. Definitely worth it.
You know, kills the hero, kills a Bramblethorn, and gets a.
And we can see actually that Team Teddy has actually taken the army lead right now. They're definitely down in upgrades. That's going to hurt.
By a significant margin. But in terms of the units on the field, they're ahead.
And the question is, we know the hard camps are going to spawn at 12 minutes in 10 seconds. So if they can actually translate this army advantage into an income advantage by taking these hard camps, that'll be huge. We see Nib already deciding, because they have such good vision, they have these sentinels everywhere. They know red team is all grouped down here, and Nib is able to take this ground camp by himself. So they're going to trade at least the ground
At least
creeps.
the ground part of it.
Right.
Nib doesn't have any tools to take them through the end.
Exactly. He won't be able to clear those
He's gonna
flying
have
creeps.
to forgo those, but he knows at least if he can get those that he has,
Yep.
it's stuff that the opponent can't.
Exactly. And this heat wave's actually doing a lot of damage. Doesn't quite pick off in this trebuchet. Nope. A good job by bombs to keep the flying unit out of that trebuchet. You don't want to leash it forward. It might.
Oh, and it goes in.
And a good snipe from Milia with the trebuchet onto that flying camp. But all in all, that was still pretty decent for Team Teddy. Their army advantage is starting to melt away a little bit as Snurp Inferno does replenish their army. Really, the name of the game so far has just been this incredible vision control by Snurp Inferno. Look at how much vision they have. They can see pretty much every angle of attack right now, and they see this warp drone too immediately with a really far forward.
And that's what you want out of that vision, right? Is
exactly.
Seeing those threats before they get there, knowing that you're going to need to react, but giving you time to prep.
And this ward is really all the vision that Red Team has right now, and this warp drone, of course.
I mean, do you think that one person on the red team can take the archive, even with a very good play in the back?
I don't think one is going to be enough.
Can do it by himself?
I don't think by himself, but I think if they all get their warp drones, it's definitely doable. They all three have picked warp drones, so that is always an option.
Swing could always happen.
Yep, and here we see some pretty aggressive positioning from bombs right now.
This looks very
Nib
dangerous.
deciding to engage in, and we see, oh my god, really good trebuchet zoning and lots of destructive prophecies onto Tetsu's army and Bomb's army.
Ooh, this is just too tough to call. This frog blast going on both sides, freezing each other, and it looks like an apocalypse or a trebuchet right down the middle lands on a bunch of Red's army.
Yeah, I think that trebuchet did a really excellent job of zoning out most of that fight, forcing Red to reposition in the middle while they were taking damage from these really tanky units. And I think those destructive prophecies onto Bombs' Bramblethorns were actually really devastating.
And I mean, this is a key time to have that fight happen too. You know, you have a bunch of units still alive for the blue team. Right is the Titan.
Yeah, now they're going to take this Titan with ease. There's really not much that Red can do to respond.
Bramblethorns can just drop it so fast.
Right. The name of the game for Red right now is to hopefully try and replenish before this Titan falls. Almost certainly, Milia, Nib, and Jagalius are going to use this to go straight at the archive. They're looking to go for the throat right now. And if the Red team can hold on, then they might be able to come back with a good warp drone play. They could try to counter with a warp drone play right as the push happens, but I think that's a little risky. I think there's just too much damage on Blue's side.
And Blue sees it, I think. They've just pinged it. Know the warp drone's there.
They do.
I think they haven't seen the other one, the second warp spawn, but I don't know that they need to know that they can go for it with the Titan, and they have enough.
Sludge's doing a good job. Down a nice shadow. You might be able to get some of these Bramblethorns, but you need to clear this army really quickly and deal with this Titan. Tetzer goes down, which is pretty
Sludge
big.
gets a good walkover on Jagalius' army.
Pretty nice, forcing him to split up and not do damage to the archive right now.
A good split, though. Splits all of the units in different
Being
directions.
very careful against it. Really good mechanics. And this Titan is falling, but it might not be fast enough. Jagalius is able to regroup after the Sludge goes down, and he's just getting all that extra damage onto the archive, and I think that is going to do it
That's
for
going to
us.
be it.
Quick.
Well, most of the army destroyed, but the Titan still with a substantial amount of health.
Yeah.
That's going to finish.
And while the Titan is taking damage over time, it still has a pretty big health pool, and it's going to take a while to take down. Oh my god. Got so many more friend requests. Atlas client is blowing up.
Guy.
Let's take a look at the post-game screen. Go through what happened. Another quick win from Snurp Inferno. It played out a bit differently from the game we saw in the winter finals, but the overall arc ended up playing out the same. It was a very quick taking 3 Titans, pushing with the 3rd Titan, just having enough damage to kill the archive. They seem to be getting a little bit of an edge in each of the fights they have. Whether it's the difference in what they're bringing to the fight, or just maybe a little bit cleaner control, crisper control, or their teamwork, they seem to be getting the edge very slightly. In the last game we saw, the kills graph was actually really close. I think a lot of the fights were much closer in the last game we saw, but that advantage they got from the double medium camp was huge. This game, it was really that first Titan that gave them a huge advantage. I'm sure if we look at the bio shards collected graph, we'll see after this first Titan, they just took an early lead and held on to it, really.
Yeah, once you get that lead as a good team, you want to just try to maintain.
Exactly.
Part of knowing how to play disciplined way. I mean, okay, I have a lead. I shouldn't press it too hard. I want to press it just enough to make you uncomfortable.
Yep.
And keep myself ahead.
Exactly. And you want to be careful not to overextend, end up throwing away some of your units, and that can really reset in a lot of cases. And I think that Tetzer and Co, Team Teddy, did actually a pretty decent job of stabilizing right before the hard camps. And I think if they had made some tough calls to split up and try to get both those hard camps with that army advantage that they managed to eke out.
I mean, Nib did not have a lot of units up there.
No, he really didn't.
He was pretty susceptible.
I think if you took either Bombs or Tedster up there instead, they probably could have contested, maybe even gotten another Aquadillo out of it, honestly.
Yep.
And that would have been huge, but really the vision that Snurp Inferno had there allowed them to make that quick judgment to say, okay, we need to split Nib off here and just kind of poke at the bottom. Yep. Also, the kind of ridiculous trebuchet snipe didn't hurt.
Pretty good.
Yeah. But that's a really tough call to make in the moment, but I will say that they did a great job of stabilizing there and getting, for a moment after...
It looked like that game had come, not only back to even, but in terms of the units on the field, they had actually taken.
They had a brief lead, for sure, and at a good timing to capitalize on those hard camps. But good vision from Snurp Inferno allowed them to make the right call to mitigate the damage that they could deal with that timing window, with that power play. Do it. See if we see any divergence in play. I think one thing that's interesting is that we really haven't seen these warp drones get value yet.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a big part of Team Teddy's game plan, is to get value out of the warp drones. And you have to wonder if maybe they're going to stop picking so many team fights. They end up in a lot of team fights, and if you win the fight, obviously that's huge.
Yeah.
That's clear value for your team, but just by the nature of being in a team fight, you're risking those units that you can no longer warp. Right?
Yeah. And I think that is what we've seen out of this, is like, okay, the fight's great, it's relatively even, but you lose a fair amount of units on the warp.
Right.
And those are now units you can't follow up and press it with. If you had them and you won, you probably win. If you never engaged at all,
right,
maybe you could warp those in. But if you have to participate and lose units,
yep,
then you're taking a big risk, and that's just a plot now that isn't giving you a whole lot of value. Whereas if you had taken like Sentinels instead and gotten a little more map vision, you might have been in better shape.
Yep. See if they change their picks at all.
Yep.
And I think that's sort of right. So with the warp drone, you want to kind of force your opponent out of position without actually risking your units. Try and get them to move a little past the Titan, because Snurp Inferno has shown that they're very willing to engage past the Titan when it's up. They've dove all the way past the outer towers, really trying to maximize their advantage. And if you can get them to lurk a little far forward and then back up and warp,
maybe onto a warp spire or onto a healing generator.
Yeah. And maybe not all the way to the archive even, right? Like you could just warp to one of the healing generators. You could warp to two separate spots.
And if you kill
force them to choose.
That's a huge amount of shards and a lack the healing for the other team. It's a pretty big deal.
Right. We have seen that that Snurp Inferno has been very good about capitalizing on their Titans. So a lot of the times you look at a split push threat like a Warp Drone, an Engineer Juggernaut, and you say, okay, if we do just a fair amount of damage, we can really end up equalizing what a Titan will do to us. But you know, the first Titan typically gets 1-2 towers, but we saw Semper Inferno take that advantage and get a massive lead from it, taking 3 towers and a warp spire. And so getting that amount of value out of a split push while letting your opponent get the Titan is a lot trickier. Semper Inferno has shown that they're really good at getting the most out of those Titan pushes, ending the game on the 3rd Titan, getting a huge lead from the 1st Titan.
Like, we may have had quite a bit of confusion to in order. It is reversed on the 2nd game, best of 3. I believe the players are sorting it out right now. Looks like we are proceeding. Disregard one of the...
Yep, looks like Bombs is locked in. That's their team's first pick. Tedster is not doing that. He's picking something that he has not picked, so he's showing this is not my realsies pick. Bombs, standard fare, same build. Regalius, Nib, picks have been pretty standard so far.
Well, I think this goes back to and what they've practiced, right? They had about a week to get everything set up and practiced after a tournament.
Yep.
And you spend that time, you know, practicing a composition really well and has no obvious weakness.
Yep.
It's a very general composition
Yep.
that works well in
And one thing is that we let this patch sit for quite a while for the tournament. And if this tournament were held a few days after the patch, I think we would have seen a lot more divergence. But after about a week, people sort of centered on this blue, red, green style. For a while, it was... For the day, it was Deadeye. It was like, white's unkillable, red is dead, red is dead. And then it turned into this Bramble Thorn Rush, double Bramble Thorn, and we saw double red, and we saw try to make white happen again, saw Sandsinger builds, but I think a lot of the teams have centered on this blue, red, green style with Aquadillos, Ice Frogs, we've got Bramble Thorns and Sludges, and then we've got our red player with the Dervishes and Apocalypse and Ember Fiends. So, I think this patch has shown teams have centered around a very stable meta, and we're excited to shake it up a bit with a patch. Try to increase the viability of some other strategies. Maybe tech rushing isn't quite as obviously the best thing to do always.
Yeah.
And some of those units that are a little trickier to use right now could become more viable. Yeah. But we're seeing very consistent picks from everyone. No differences yet.
I think we're locked in. Yeah.
And we are locked in. And we are locked in.
That's a very confident play too, to have lost a game and decide, nope, not changing a thing.
Yep.
We'll just do it better.
That's right.
Welcome to Arctura.
A good way to handle a loss.
Yep.
In some
I'd say
ways.
we're in that weird, awkward phase where there's enough time for teams to practice one composition and decide that this is the optimal thing, but not enough time to really push the bounds to see how you can abuse that. How can we spend enough time practicing a niche build that snipes this? Maybe there will be something with the blind pick. I don't know. If we get to that, that would be really cool.
I think that'd be very interesting. Compositions that prioritize more single target damage here, as opposed to these AoE.
Right.
I think have some room.
We did see an interesting composition. We saw a white-red mix that Double D and Drago used.
Much earlier in the day,
Yeah, and I think it was actually pretty promising. They had a couple bad beats, but they were able to actually get a lot of value out of those units. CG
got some engagements going up here.
The opening's a little different this time. Red is actually taking... Team Teddy is actually taking a pretty firm control of both of these critter regions right now, so they're getting some good value out of that.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that they sort of suffered before, is that the blue team got more of an early lead on the critters, got more early shards because of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tech did a good job at shutting that strongly this time.
Ooh, a nice dash forward by Jacalius, trapping bombs. Bombs might be able to actually answer and get a lot of the sensors from this.
This is very scary.
This might be able to get another safeguard, not quite.
Not quite, but Jacalius trades all of his sandstick.
Yeah. But Jacalius probably really just wants those shards more than the Sandsingers itself.
Oh,
it will give him a bit of a problem with his production slots because he's staying on 2. So he's not going to have that many Sandstingers up for the first fight, actually. And Milia has a nice play down here, catching Tedster, barely trying to back off to his tower.
And that is a risk when you run this sort of strategy that prioritizes so many early cards. You don't have any production slots.
Yeah.
So if you're going for Tech 2 already and doing research, you can build one unit at a time.
Yeah, with that, if you don't get any slots. But here, actually, this is going to be interesting. I mean, he, as the red player for his team, is the player that has the most damage on his team. He's been totally untouched. Yeah, he's got his economy pumping. He's getting his 2 dervishes right now.
Dervishes out.
A healthy amount of Spitfires, too.
You know, and if his team can tank for him and gets those scorches down on some of those tanky units from you, like, that could be really good. That could stay alive for a very long time and do a lot of it.
Absolutely.
And then it is that focus fire he, as a red player, Spitfires, can land that scorch and get that ignite on you. Focus them down quickly. That is one to really max.
Yeah, we can see Galeus 24 supply with these dervishes coming, so his Sandstinger count is much lower. They can actually just afford to DPS down this Titan really quickly if they decide to. A shadow coming in, a nice catch under Galeus' stuff, and some follow-up from Tetster. He's going to actually melt these Sandstingers. That's a huge play by Tetster right now, actually. They're getting a giant lead for Team Teddy.
And once again, there's no production to replenish these. It takes so long to get those back.
And a nice trap from Bombs using this safeguard, and they're going to get nibbed. This is huge for Team Teddy.
Excellent. With the blue, with these Scuttle Guards against the wall, nowhere to run. They're all going to get cleaned up.
Amazing play from Team Teddy. This is looking much better for them right now. They're going to back off and take a second. And they have a lot of optionality here. They can DPS it down right now, which it seems like they're doing so far. They can decide to back off. We'll see what ends up happening. Got some nice split forming again from Bloody. He's been great at this all game, and Milia doing some of his own. They're aggressing again. They pick off Jagalius too. They're getting a lot of shards out of this, a lot of value.
I mean, talking about coming back in a best of 3 and starting out on a good foot again.
Yeah. Amazing multitasking from both players right there. They're actually trading tier 1s up here, both controlling while managing this Titan fight. Really clean call. Bomb sending in a trooper as well.
I don't know how much is left to manage in this Titan fight, because here it goes.
Nib is
a decisive win from the red team.
Let's see what red can get off of this. They're doing a similar strategy, sending this really full health Titan here. That's going to be a substantial threat. They're taking this split push, taking this tower easily.
And you know, if blue team isn't careful, they can walk in and kill a Warp Spire here.
Absolutely, and they've got full control of this critter region too. Let's see what they end up doing. Milia did a nice job of getting his Bramblethorns up still. That's huge. Sort of dancing here. What are they going to get off this? Bomb's going forward. They've got a huge
They decide to commit for it.
They're going to try to actually catch a nice slow, but the Bramblethorns are going to get out.
That much.
It does slow this Bramblethorn. If they could catch it, nope, it's getting out just fine.
Poking at these tier 1s.
It was actually stabilizing pretty well. This Titan's still doing a lot of work.
And that, I think, is the biggest thing here, is that they force the blue team to come up and defend themselves on this Warp Spire. But the Titan's still alive.
Titan is still alive. This Bramblethorn does get out. That's big. If they were able, they lost that. Bloodier might go down. A nice heal from Tetster, keeping Bloodier alive. He almost gets, he gets body blocked and goes down. That's a little tough. Aquadillo can't quite follow up. This Bramblethorn is running for its dear life. They need to get this out right now. Bramblethorns do get out. That's
almost
big.
Gets slowed, but gets away.
Yeah.
And both of these Bramblethorns are still alive. The hero died. That's unfortunate. That's some bio shards for the other team, but keeps the high value charge alive.
Yeah. And if there was a little bit of support here, a couple troopers or something, they could have taken this out potentially. If the ion cannon had gone out a little earlier, but still overall pretty decent opening from Team Teddy. They have a bit of a lead right now. See how they translate this as the medium camps are showing up. Blue team thinks that they actually have a bit of an advantage. They're posturing to try and steal this right now. They are in a better position here to actually deal with this.
Let's see what call the red team makes. They can either try to engage on the medium camp, prevent the steal,
or
they can take the alternative one. It looks like that's what they're going to do.
Looks like they're doing. Again, these sentinels are so big.
And so much vision.
Yep. And actually, it looks like they're going to split up here. Leaving these Bramblethorns here, this could be dangerous. See if red team can finish it off and see if they can actually take a fight here. They do get this whole camp. They have an advantage, but they might not know that because they don't have the vision themselves.
No, they choose to just walk away. They take the trade, but they don't really take any losses on either side.
Yep, it looks like the teams are going to back off. This game is actually very, very interesting. Teddy's team does have a bit of an advantage, and they haven't been able to play from this position before, so we'll see how this turns out differently for them. Are they actually going to get value out of these warp drones, or are they just going to end up winning these fights?
That's what we talked about before, right? Is these warp drone plays work when you have a lot of armies surviving. Finish fights and both your opponent is low on army and you're low on army, they really can't work. But now, the red team does have enough units. They've got the supply on, and that could be a really strong play now.
Yep, and we see these Ice Frogs coming out for Teddy. He's got a bit of an advantage on Nib right now, but Nib's about to even that up.
Yeah, I've liked Teddy's earlier Ice, both this game and the previous one.
Right.
The things that let them at least have a hope in.
I think it's actually it's an interesting call because they're really good against those Bramble Thorns, even without the Aquadillo engage.
Yeah.
Right? The Aquadillo is not gonna.
It helps you set up the combo, but I think the Ice Frog works great by itself.
Yes. And these Sentinels are doing so much for Snurp Inferno. Look at this vision; it's insane.
I mean, the map's lit up. I mean, they just know everything that's happening. That puts you in a really tough spot as the opposing team, and the worst part is you don't know it. You don't know if you're not paying attention.
And Bomb's getting a lot of value out of these two troopers. Look at all of these shards for him to take. That's huge. Inferno is going to respond, but they don't have many split push units right now. You don't want to send an Aquadillo there to deal with it. This is drawing a lot of attention, and Bombs wisely pulls back. Good multitasking from his.
I think what that was is they saw the edge of the they didn't know how much was down there. They do have a lot of vision. Vision is concentrated always between areas. If they didn't respond and there was a lot more units there, that could have meant that tower.
Yeah. And again, Milia using this good vision to take these camps, take these little edges, getting the most value out of the Sentinels. And we see Titan fight starting. Jagalius is trickling in. He's got his classic Dervish Apocalypse army. Let's see how this Titan fight lines up.
The Bramble Thorns advancing on the right flank. They eat an Apocalypse.
Not doing too much. And a nice Ice Frog from Teddy. Are they going to follow up on it or not? Some nice destructive properties, but not enough to finish anything off.
But in the time that's taken, the Bramble Thorns walk all the way around.
The Bramble Thorns from Bombs are doing a great job of zoning, but one does fall. Milia's
sort of sandwiched now.
Yep. They are getting out though, and Milia's are getting pretty low. He's lost one himself, but he's going to get his other two out too. Tetzer losing some of his critical Aquadillos, and Nibs are getting quite low too. Can they trade? Not quite.
This is one of the interesting things about this very ability-focused composition is that once you've blown all the abilities, you don't have a lot of DPS in these sort of mid-class.
A nice shot onto Jagalius' army,
Even
but
better, a freeze on all of the Apocalypse.
Oh my gosh, a great catch by Nib. Vladimir extended a little too far to pick off some of Jagalius' units, and Nib rightly followed up on it with his own units.
Yeah, that's a very punishing way to get all of the Apocalypse and to get an Ice
This has been an
on top of it.
incredibly close fight right now. All these high health units getting so low. A nice heal from Nib to keep it alive. Tetzer
Just barely keeps it alive.
Barely goes down. This fight might have tipped just slightly in Snurp Inferno's favor. Vladimir trying to actually pick up this Aquadillo. That'd be huge. A nice pick from him. Nib is really low. Yeah, I think it was on cooldown barely. Oh. But Dodge doesn't lose his Dervish. But Snurp Inferno does get Titan. Let's see what they can get off of it right now.
Well, initially, yeah, it looks like they're going for a more straightforward play here, just advancing towards the tower.
Yeah, they don't have much of an army advantage. They're actually skipping past it. Let's see what they get. Bombs actually...
Ooh, this is a very risky play.
Oh, Bombs is slowing everything down right now. He's blocking really well. Milia might actually lose his hero.
I think so.
Bramble Thorn is getting low too. Bombs is trying to chase down the Destructive Prophecy, not going to do much, and both of these Bramble Thorns might fall to this sludge.
It seems like a massive overextension.
It's a huge overextension, and now Red is aggressing. They're going to back off. They don't want to lose their own units again, trying not to overextend. This Titan is doing some work. It's going to get a Warp Spire. They did get one of the outer towers, but I think that's all they're going to get out of it, and if the red team can stabilize and clear this Titan before the hard camp spawns, this is where we're going to see who really ends up getting the advantage off that second Titan fight.
Yep. And, I mean, both teams still have a substantial amount of units on the field, but it feels like Blue bled out quite a lot of units there.
Absolutely.
For very little gain.
Yep.
They could have gotten those two towers very quickly if they just stopped to kill them.
God, so many critters here right
Feels
now.
like they were a little hasty.
A lot of shards to be gained, and it looks like all of Team Teddy is going for this top hard camp, whereas Jagalius down here, he's probably going to take this. Nib is rotating up. Let's see how the teams play. around these hard camps.
If Tedster and Bombs can zone the other team out of that top region, while they can do just enough damage from Blood Ear on hard camps.
Yep, Bombs is zoning really well with his sludge. The sludge has been doing a lot of work for him.
Is a strong play.
Surprise sludge, and they quickly DPS is down with Blood Ears, nice dervishes.
Yeah, those dervishes just do so much single
Jagalius taking these himself. What's interesting is that Jagalius is going to get all of these resources for better or for worse, but up here, Team Teddy's going to split it a little bit, and we'll see. And we're seeing actually how different this game looks already. I mean, last time Milia had gigantic army. Last time he had trebuchets, he had all the bramble thorns. Blue team was really healthy. They're looking to actually try to catch red team out of position, get a little bit of an edge from the fact that Teddy hasn't rotated all the way down from that hard camp yet. They do get an outer tower, but I think that's going to be about it.
I think that's going to be it.
Bombs is actually trying to catch them. They think it's a bit of an overextension. He slows the units down. He's got to get something out of his ult. That would be huge. Jagalius is way out of position. Has a lot of low health. Apocalypse. A nice engage by Tetzer. They might pick off a Bramblethorn. Millie is popping his own ult. They're engaging this Bramblethorn. Looks like it's pretty free. A nice safeguard to delay this a little bit. Letting his allies get in position. An Ice Frog could help turn this, but the Bramblethorn does go down. And Nib, I think, is going to back off wisely.
I think that's wise. I mean, you look at that and you're like, okay, I can get the Frost Breath down. I can even get the Aquadilla follow-up, but I really don't have much more after that. None of my teams are around with enough damage.
And we can see the army advantage that Team Teddy has, and both teams are going to back off. They're going to clear their hard camps, the upgrades real quick while this is happening. Don't really see much of an upgrade advantage materializing here. Tetzer hasn't really started any of his defensive upgrades yet, but Niv has just one physical resist upgrade. So we don't see much of an upgrade advantage, and we can kind of see this in the spending. It's looking pretty similar right now.
Yeah.
The real story is just this army advantage that Team Teddy has, and they need to take advantage of that.
Yeah.
And the question is, are they going to take advantage of it from a straight-up fight, or are they going to go for a warp drone play and say, we think that we can just end right now, because we have an army advantage, we have warp drones, we're just going to warp on your archive. I think that Tetzer's ult is still up right now. I don't think he's used it. So they could make that play.
They could do it. I think they need the warp drones though.
It's a very gutsy call though.
One's coming out right now.
One is coming out right now. I think it's a bold call though, because especially when you're in an advantage like that, it's very all in. It's something that you might more easily be able to make a call on from behind.
Throw. I mean,
yeah, it could throw for sure. When
you're behind, you go,
risky. Yeah.
When you're ahead, you go, oh.
But honestly, Server Friender doesn't have much to deal with it. They've got one Ice Frog right now. They don't have any Quadrupus interventions to help deal with it. Looks like they're posturing here. Jagalius is saving his abilities to snipe this if he needs to, but no. Looks like Server Friender takes that with ease. Tetzer tries to catch on to Nib. They need to be really careful. 2 sludges. That's huge for Bombs. He needs to get those in position, although he's just using it to DPS down the Titan right now. Zoning a little bit. A lot of damage onto those Bramble Thorns. Bombs is actually getting really low, so he loses his hero. That's really, really tough. No safeguards to protect this sludge. The sludge is zoning a lot, but it might go down. Tetzer follows up. Nib counters.
Amount of stuff slowed here.
A nice ult from Tetzer. That's an ult.
That's an ult. No, that he can't use to do the warp drone.
That's true. And we see Bloodir and Jagalius just positioning on the side safely. A lot of destructive prophecies coming in from both players. Pyroblast to split things up a little bit, and oh my gosh, Tetzer's units are so low. This Bramblethorn is so low. Jagalius is trying to get up there, but the sludge is slowing everything. He has all these Apocalypse trapped. Bloodir needs to fall, but he can't get in position.
Nobody else there.
Yeah, he can't afford to go too far forward. He's kept all of his units alive right now, but he's got to be careful of these Aquadillas. They're low, but they're still really dangerous. A nice destructive prophecy from Jagalius takes off a couple of the dervishes.
From the lingering slow on that Aquadilla, just let that out of harm's way. And just enough speed.
That was a really close 10 straight. A good ult from Tedster, but they just weren't quite able to capitalize on the destructive prophecies as well as Jagalius did. Jagalius, he used them really quickly up front to get a ton of damage onto those Bramble Thorns. And Bombs losing his hero meant that he didn't have that safeguard to keep that sludge alive. If you safeguard that sludge, that is a ton of guaranteed zoning protection.
Yeah. And I think he maybe thought that he could keep those Bramblethorns away from everything else by blowing the ult and hanging out next to him, but you know, getting slapped by 3 Bramblethorns at once. Huge amount of damage.
Yep. You see them delaying the Titan to let their team get in position. Now, historically, Milia and his team have used this as the game-ending Titan. Will they try to do it now? Red has been able to build up a lot more this time. I think Nib still does have his ult.
Yeah, once again choosing to skip past
They're
the
skipping.
tower.
They're going for it right now. See Amelia pop his ult. He's getting into Bloodear's army. Are they going to be able to finish? Bloodear only loses one Apocalypse. Not
Could've been
bad.
a lot worse.
But they need to start damaging
These heat
this
waves,
Titan.
though, these heat waves are keeping everything back.
Great heat waves from Bloodear too. These are going to do a lot of work. Milia is about to go down. We'll see if he has a safeguard. Nice safeguard. This sludge is coming in. I don't know if they'll be able to finish it. They need to get this Titan. They need to get damage onto this Titan as soon as they can.
They're getting damage on all this army, but the Titan's still alive.
And I think just barely Snurf Inferno is going to be able to end it again.
Do it. GG's all around.
GG.
Oh, that was the second game.
Yeah.
I think that is the grand finals.
And-
Team Snurp Inferno.
And that does crown Snurf Inferno the inaugural Guardians of Atlas Open Alpha. I think Team Teddy showed a lot of promise in that last game. They had excellent control of the game up for the first two Titan fights, and just a little bit of a slip and some nice play on that third Titan fight from Snurf Inferno was able to turn it.
Yeah. I mean, and that is one of the hallmarks of that high-level game, right? Is it only takes a little bit of a slip to really swing the game. The game is just so tight and so tense at that point.
It is. I mean, it's only been out for a little bit, a couple weeks, but we already see players getting really good and being able to capitalize on advantages really quickly and being super punishing. I mean, just the way that Snurf Inferno goes for the throat right now, just barely being able to close out these games. That is a gutsy play. A lot of people will play it a little safer. They're saying we've got our advantage. We don't want to overextend.
Yeah. You have to know where that edge is, and that's difficult to call without a lot of experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I wonder, a couple different decisions here and there. If you saw a Quadrupus to actually pass an intervention on that archive, would stall out long enough.
Yep.
Maybe opt for some Ice Frogs over some Aquadillos. Maybe just flood out a lot of Sand Singers if you have the production slots for it, just to get more single target damage. You will have to be very careful though.
Yeah. But you have a lot of mobility with them.
Got a lot of mobility, but it is a very tight space. I think, yeah, probably you want to stick with the Dervishes and the Heat Waves and the Apocalypse for sure. But seeing Blue opt for more Ice Frogs and Quadrupus as that last minute defense would be interesting. Well, I think that's just going to about cover it for us. Yeah. We had a lot of fun casting. We hope you guys had fun watching. And thanks to everyone that helped organize the tournament and play. This went pretty smoothly.
Surprisingly smoothly.
I mean, we were sort of joking that we'd be here until like 10, thinking, every round would take like an hour and a half. But after we got the free agents sorted out and then got the tournament rolling, everyone...
Pretty well.
Yeah.
Good job to everyone. I mean, very well done by all of the organization. So much is vital, and thank everyone else for showing up, checking in, and reporting the games quickly and easily.
Yeah,
that made it so much easier to keep things moving.
Yeah, and we're excited to help you guys. I mean, you guys really organized us. We're just here casting like a couple idiots because we have a setup for it. But we're excited to run more of these with you guys in the future. Work with you guys, and one of the cool things about running a tournament like this is that. You guys are competitive, and we're competitive too. We can't play in it, unfortunately. Thought about it, but probably not the right thing to do. And you guys really pushed this patch to its limit. I think you guys really explored the game really quickly. And just seeing how everyone was tinkering just to compete for this tournament let us sort of see how the game was playing out right now. Yeah. It's giving us a lot of information about how to patch, where the game feels like it's falling a little short. Mostly right now, I think the meta is a little too stagnant. The number of viable options in terms of, am I teching? Am I going for tier 1 units? Something we're looking to improve. And also just a lot of the units don't feel like they have a good place in terms of viability.
I mean, we try to test the game a lot. If you ask any pre-alpha playtesters, the daily playtest crew, we test the game a lot. We try to play it all the time. But putting it through a crucible like this that forces everyone to really hone in on an edge that they think is the best is really a great way to look at balance and say, okay, everyone kind of came to the same conclusion. That's a very interesting thing to balance around. what does that mean for the game and how the flow is working.
And so we'll be releasing a patch soon. Talk about it more next week. And we're excited to keep getting feedback from you guys. And
and I think we'll have a stream when we do that.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the patch and why and what, and probably motivated by some of the experience here.
And keep giving us more feedback. The patch isn't done, so we're looking forward to making sure it's as good as it can be.
Well, thank you for playing Guardians of Atlas, everyone.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed the stream.
And thanks for tuning in. Have a good one.